200,000, and they're raising it each year, it seems, you know. So I definitely want how universities to focus on accommodation with that. But I also want to encourage like rented accommodation with landlords to offer flexible contract, as I mentioned before, you know, to open up the options for students to consider that there is other options within the university as well. You know, with my housing platform, you know, you could find other housemates there as well. So that is accessible to you 24/7 and free. It's a way of galvanizing students, and in collaboration with my community meetings, I'm going further than Rate My Landlord, and I'm going further than Unipol by including it within the Leeds portal. So in collaboration with the Leeds portal and the community meetings, as a community officer, I really believe that with accommodation, we need to tackle it. And these are policies that I believe that will galvanize us as students to really tackle this problem. But yeah, that is a huge issue with accommodation and with universities not offering proper prices. So that's definitely something that I see as a problem. So yeah, as tuition fees are rising and accommodation is increasing, you know, that's something that I definitely want to tackle.
George.
Yeah, it is part of my manifesto to try and make the halls cheaper. It's completely unjust that the students who come here are then thrown into these halls that are over £4,000 a year, like upwards of that. Especially there are certain students who their loans will not cover those costs, and they apply for the cheaper halls because that's what they have to do, and then if there's no places there, they get thrown into these more expensive ones, and I kind of want to put an end to that. I don't want students, they should be excited about coming here. They shouldn't be worried, oh God, what if I get put in halls that's $5,000 a year kind of thing. Like, it shouldn't be that. Plus, they're only 42-week contracts, and you can get 52-week contracts in private accommodation that's cheaper than that. So absolutely something needs to be done about that.
Ruth.
Yeah, I would absolutely be pushing for lower rents in halls. Just sort of picking up a bit on what George was saying about it being so important for your first housing experience to be a good one. For probably the majority of first years, it's going to be the first time they're actually living away from home. It's the first time they're having to organise that for themselves. If that's stressful, if you're having problems with that, if you can't make ends meet because of how expensive it is, that's going to feed into all aspects of your life. It's going to make you stressed. It can affect your mental health. It's not just an issue of money. There's a lot more that kind of stems from it that can really contribute to unhappiness among students, and that's such a big problem as well, just on a wider scale.
Thank you, Ruth. So moving on from housing towards transport, a great deal has been done in recent years by community officers and by other staff at LUU regarding transport, for example, the introduction of the £1 bus fare for students. What other issues do you think are priorities in regards to transport, and how would you combat these? I'm going to come to Abdi first.
This is definitely something that is a huge problem, transport. Well, for me, I'd push transport companies to facilitate more students during the rush hour period. I mean, if you just take a look outside Parkinson Building during the rush hour, like 6 p.m., 7 p.m., you'll see just like queues, you'll see pavements blocked, it interrupts students' travels. So I'd push transport companies such as First to get more buses out there during the rush hour period. It's also something that negatively affects disabled students, so that's something that I definitely push for. In collaboration with that, I'd also encourage like a Leeds Union bike scheme similar to, you know, London Boris bike scheme. I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but yeah, a Leeds bike scheme would give discounts to students from disadvantaged backgrounds that is provided by the union, and it'd be environmentally friendly, and it also make us play that extra role within our community to make us, you know, environmentally friendly as well. And that would also be provided with locks as well, you know, housing locks and bike locks as well. So yeah, both that. Push transport companies and implement a bike scheme.
Thank you. Harry.
I think what people don't realise about this debate is like transport's changing so much in Leeds. Working at Leeds City Council over the summer, we have a massive infrastructure programme, £500 million worth going into the city centre, and a lot of the focus of that is transport. And if I were the community officer, I think for cyclists, I think it's lobbying Leeds City Council to include better bike lanes all the way down to the city centre. It's about more bike sheds on campus. I have a lot of friends who are cyclists who find it very difficult to lock up their bikes. There's not CCTV there, and they're worried about it getting stolen. Make sure they're using D-locks. I think I'd have to agree with Abdi as well. The Boris Bike scheme or a rental scheme or like the Sustainability Hub do, that's really good. It's about improving that, making it cheaper and more accessible. With regards to buses, the £1 bus fare has been a big success, but a lot of students who are going back to housing didn't apply for halls that are further out, yet still have to live there. They shouldn't be forced to shoulder the cost of a more expensive bus pass. Let's lower the price of bus passes. Whether that going straight to the transport companies, whether that's improving the University of Leeds subsidy. And finally, and this is going to sound really random, if you're walking to uni, it's not sometimes a very pedestrian-friendly walk. Opposite the business school, there's that muddy bit, it's crap, let's pave over that. I'm fine with that being a policy. By High Park Pub, I live near there, that road is a mess, let's deal with that. So walking, cycling, buses, let's make it like, more easy for students, pedestrians, however they want to get to university, so it suits everybody. Thank you.
George.
Yeah, so first I'd like to talk about students that commute in to Leeds, who say they live outside of Leeds, and then they come in on the train, and then from the train station, then have to make their way to uni. So I would quite like to have a service, especially for those early hours, I'm talking like 9 a.m.s, 10 a.m.s, where we get a bus down there that waits until 8:45, 20 to 9, to pick up students for free who have had to come in from the train to take them up to campus. Now, building on kind of developing what people have said about the Boris Bike scheme, I know that Johnny, 2 years ago, he tried to campaign for one of those, and for various reasons, it never came to fruition. So I think the way that we can deal with that is by getting more bikes in the bike hub, the Velo campus, the bikes that you rent for the year, because I know they run out very, very quickly. There is a demand for them, so let's just get more of them. And yeah, one of my main policy points as well is about improving that night bus on the Friday nights. Again, the union has a get home safe mantra, although in the terms and conditions of the night bus, they say if you're too drunk, they won't let you on. Now let's assume if you're too drunk to get in the night bus, you're going to be way too drunk to walk home on your own or even order a taxi on your own. So let's actually be helping out those students rather than turning them away.
Thank you. And Ruth.
Yes, so as George said, we do already have a bike hub at uni. It's a really, really great scheme. It would be really, really fantastic to expand that so that students who do want to cycle but don't necessarily have enough money to just buy a bike outright can take advantage of that. In terms of buses and transport, it would be really great to kind of expand the £1 bus fare. The thing is, Leeds is a really massive city. There are loads of students who live there, and we don't all live in Hyde Park. I think it can be a problem for students who live out, like, say, quite in Far Headingley or in Burley, to feel like you're not really part of the Leeds student community and to feel like it's actually quite difficult to get to where you need to go. And it's not really excusable that people should be paying very much for that. So absolutely, I would want to cut the cost of transport and just make it easier for everyone to get around.
Thanks, Ruth. So I'm now going to hand over to Kyle. We're going to get some questions that have come in from you guys and students at home on Twitter and Facebook. Kyle, what have we got?
Thanks, Georgia. You can get in touch with the debate. We are now fully live, so make sure you go to the YouTube if you're at home watching that. You can get involved with the debate at hashtag Lead LUU. Our first question is, how would you get students more engaged with organisations in the Leeds area to encourage them to stay after graduation?
Okay, George, coming to you first.
Okay, so in terms of trying to get students more involved in the community, what I want to try and do is create more volunteering opportunities that are less time demanding. I spoke to a lot of students and they said the main reason that they don't want to do volunteering schemes is because it asks for too much time. So I feel if we can create opportunities that only ask for a handful of hours a week, more people are going to want to get involved in those. And from those people who do it, some of them are going to absolutely love it and then decide, actually, you know what, I want to put more time into this. The other thing is about increasing visibility of these options, because if these opportunities that do only ask for 1-2 hours a week already exist, students don't know about them. So it's either way, it's an issue, and yeah, increasing visibility of those and accessibility to them as well.
Thank you. Ruth?
Yes, so in terms of student engagement with volunteering opportunities in the community, last week I went along to a community impact event in Hyde Park, and there were a lot of different organisations that do a lot of volunteering there. And what was really, really clear was how keen they are to get people involved. And I think it is a problem that students don't know enough about what's out there. If I were elected community officer, I would absolutely want to publicise things like that more. I'd like to link up societies who might be interested in having their members volunteer with the relevant organisations, because we've got some really great, strong links, and a lot of people don't know about them. And I'm just going to use this as an example, something that you'll see on my manifesto, and something that's kind of quite close to my heart as a cause, and that's the Real Junk Food Project. It's a really cool project. Check it out. Basically, what they do is they use food that would otherwise go to waste, make delicious hot meals with it, and then serve them up in pay-as-you-feel cafes. So if you're struggling for cash, you can go and you can get a hot meal for however much money you are willing or able to pay. And the union works closely with the Real Junk Food Project. We do give some food to them. That's something that I would like to expand. But in terms of volunteering opportunities, they are always so desperate for volunteers. And people don't even know that they're there. They don't even know what they do. And it's just such a great local grassroots sort of movement and community initiative. If we could get students more involved in stuff like that, it's not just going to benefit students, it's not just going to benefit your CV, it's going to benefit the community as a whole.
Thank you, Abdi.
Well, yes, I'm somebody like that. Firstly, I wasn't really a part of the union that much. I didn't know what role it played, but the past 2 years I've been involved with STAR. I've been a course rep. If you don't know STAR, it's Students Take Action for Refugees. I've seen the important role it plays in the community. So as a community officer, my first thing would be fortnight community meetings. I've previously mentioned it. I'd get a rep from each society, and we'd vote on policy proposals. So you'd get a way to engage people, students, into policies that affect them. For crime, like specifically I'm going to mention with crime, I'd get student-led teams out there every Monday and Friday knocking on doors, giving advice, giving out locks. With the environment as well, I've spoken to the sustainability service in Leeds, and they actually have a campaign called Leave Leeds Tidy. So I'd want the community officer to work closely with them. And with all these policies, like with all these issues that we face, I believe that we just as students, we need to come together and find a source. And that I believe that source is the community meetings, the fortnight community meetings. And that's where we can come together and really find solutions to the problems we face in the community.
Thank you, and Harry.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much scope for more involvement. The union should be outward facing. We should be involved in the community. And it's just about going through ways we can do that. I absolutely agree with more volunteering and work opportunities in the community. It's about publicizing those. I don't know if you've been on the portal and stuff where they're advertised, but it's not visible enough, and they're not like clear enough, and it's not very accessible. It's about also bringing them to us, getting residents on campus, getting these organizations on campus, running volunteering fairs, running work opportunities fairs to encourage people to do so. I'd like to echo Abdi's point. I think it's time for more student representation on community forums and resident associations. Let's get students involved in local politics, and get them back on the electoral register. That's also really important. Ruth brought up the Leeds Community Project event at Our Hallows Church, and it was a great event. And you just realize that there's all this going on. It's about connecting up all these different networks to create a genuine movement about it. For example, Our Hallows Church do a lot of stuff with STAR. Woodhouse Community Centre do a lot of stuff where, helping people with, mental health issues. And it's about linking up student societies with them, such as Leeds Mind, such as STAR. Even like, why aren't our sports teams more casually playing resident teams? It's about fostering that sense of community as well, through projects as well, like Leeds Leave Tidy. Leeds Community Project ran the first Leeds Leave Tidy event at Christmas. That was really good. And it's about making them more frequent, making them more accessible, getting volunteers involved. But just to go back to the question, I think it was about how to make people stick in Leeds after graduation. There has been a move away now from moving to London. London's seen as too expensive, a bit too corporate. And I think it's about advertising grad schemes more. It's about societies getting a wider array of sponsors, which we can support them to do, so people are more tempted to stay in Leeds afterwards, and helping them take root in the community here, and talking about issues like employability as well. So there's a lot of different ways, from volunteering to work to community engagement to local politics. I'd be willing to expand them all. I'm really passionate about doing so.
Thank you very much. So don't forget, as Carl said, to keep getting in touch with the hashtag LeadLUU. I'd now like to invite each of our candidates to give a brief closing statement, and I'll start with Harry.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great chatting about the issues here. Hopefully I've gotten over being nervous and stuff as well. Look, if you're wanting to get, stop the hidden costs of house hunting, then I'm really passionate about doing so. If you want a safer, greener city with more glass recycling, and students can have fun, carefree, I'm really passionate about doing so. If you want campus more in touch with the community, more in touch with Leeds, and more in touch with bigger issues like Brexit and Erasmus and the international students, I'm really passionate about doing so. I'd love your vote. I'd love your friends' vote. Like my page. Vote Harry Firth-Jones #1 for community.
Thank you. Ruth?
Yeah, it's been really great to be able to talk to you today. I hope that it's helped you kind of get more of an idea of what I'm about and the stuff that's really important to me. And of course, if you have any questions, please do contact me via Twitter. It's "Rely on Ruth" is the slogan. So you can rely on me to hold landlords to account, to help you feel more empowered in your housing choices, to cut the cost of living, to increase sustainability in Leeds, and to help make you feel safer. That's something that we didn't have time to really touch on, but do check out my manifesto for my ideas on that as well. Thank you very much, and please vote me #1 for community.
Thank you. Abdi?
Well, this is something I've never really gotten myself into, but I've really enjoyed this election campaign. I've had a lot of fun. Well, with me, I believe I'm offering distinct policies, to do with crime, to do with the environment, to do with transport, to do with housing. And I believe that these will affect you, and these will get you involved with the community engagement meetings. And I really enjoyed it. I believe I've, through my experience as being a course rep, being involved with societies, I believe this is the role I'm meant to do. So I hope you're passionate you're as passionate as I am, and you vote for me. My slogan is called "Back It for Bassett." So check me out on Facebook, Abdi Bassett Adan, and yeah, if it's not first preference, second preference.
Thank you. And finally, George?
Sure. So at the start, I said I was about saving people 3 things: hassle, time, and money. Volunteering opportunities that are less time demanding, cheaper housing, the fruity bus, burglar alarms in every student property in Leeds. I want to get voter registration up. I want to improve glass recycling. I'm going to do it for you, by the way. And I want to give people free help with their bills, okay? So if that all sounds like something you're interested in, Bissett, me you're looking for? Yes, it is. Facebook is Bissett for Community. There's 2 T's in Bissett, by the way. But more importantly, don't just like the Facebook, more importantly, vote. Go and vote. It's more important than ever. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you to all of our candidates. Please give them a warm round of applause. Okay, welcome back everybody. This is question time for the leadership race, and our next group of candidates are running to be your Equality and Diversity Officer next year. This position is responsible for ensuring all students can input into decisions so that the union meets all needs fairly. They also enact students' ideas for removing barriers to get the experience they want from their time at Leeds. So I'd like to invite the candidates onto the stage now. Please give them a warm welcome. To any of these. Okay, so to start off with, we're going to give each candidate the chance to give a 30-second opening statement. So I'll begin with Al. Do you want to speak into the mic?
Hi, I'm running on a platform of accessibility, education and solidarity. So for accessibility, I want to develop clear guidelines for union events for what they can do to make their events accessible, and to push for people to include all of accessibility information in their events page, so people can be more informed about the events that they go to. For employment, I want to hold workshops on issues like disclosing your disability or dealing with transition in workplaces, finding equal opportunity employers. And for solidarity, I want to make sure that student politics is engaging everyone, especially the people who it often misses out.
Thank you, Al. Natasha.
Hi, my name's Natasha, and I'd like to be your Equality and Diversity Officer. I think now more than ever it's vital the university takes a stand against all forms of prejudice and discrimination. I believe fully in a multicultural society, and that's why I've devoted my time at Leeds to studying a languages degree to kind of break down those barriers. I learned how to be a leader in my second year when I became the president of the African Caribbean Society. Under my leadership, we tripled membership, and participation skyrocketed. So I learned how to speak to students and how to engage with them and understand what they want. If you elect me, I'll provide an equal platform for all groups, because no one deserves to feel that their voice shouldn't be heard.
Thank you, Natasha. And Kai.
Hi, my name is Kai. I am from the Lifelong Learning Center, and I'm representing all the mature students and all the students that has been marginalized. My manifesto stands on inclusion for all, and I mean inclusion for all, young, old, mature, part-time, full-time, from all standards, of course, and the interconnectivity between a society and students and university. Thank you.
Thanks, Kai. So, from your past experiences with volunteering in societies that you've mentioned, what do you guys think is the key thing that you'd bring to the role of Equality and Diversity Officer? So, Kai, let's start with you.
I'm sorry?
Sure. So, from your past experiences in volunteering or with societies here at LUU, what do you think is the key thing that you would bring to the role of being the next E&D officer?
I will just start with transparency. I want to include almost everybody, and during the decision process, policy, and events too. If I was elected, my first priority is to include all those people who have supported me, giving me all these questions and their problems to be shared in front of all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Natasha.
Yes, I was lucky enough to be able to study in 3 different countries, so I feel like this has really given me an appreciation of diversity. One of the points on my manifesto is to try and eliminate all the stigma that's associated with the word immigration. So I'd like to create a new campaign based around speaking about immigration in Britain, where communities came from, why they came, and where they went to completely try and eliminate that and create a new positive light. And that's quite something that I feel really passionate about.
Thanks, Natasha. And Al.
Well, I've been involved in the LGBT community for 10 years, and since I've been at Leeds, I've set up the Leeds Alliance Autism Society, because oftentimes I think the biggest barrier to participation is knowing that the people there are going to welcome you in. Oftentimes we'll go to an event and because of our particular access needs, we'll be told just not to come back, basically. And often, I think that an awareness of those particular needs and the need to be heard and represented is something that I'll bring to that.
Thank you, Al. So you've touched upon accessibility there. Accessibility is a theme across all of your manifestos. What to you guys is the biggest problem to tackle in terms of making LUU accessible? And do you think LUU is accessible? So Natasha, I'll come to you first.
Well, to touch on the second point that you made, I definitely feel like it's a lot more accessible than it used to be. So I'm in my 4th year and I've kind of been able to see how the union has changed. So it's definitely better than it used to be, but it's nowhere near where it needs to be. If we think about, for instance, people with physical disabilities, particularly during the union upgrade, there's been a lot of kind of disruption to that, and it's quite difficult because how are you expected to be involved with the union if you can't even navigate the building? So that's something that if I was elected, to make sure that the union upgrade causes minimal disruption as possible. Also, we have to remember that not all disabilities are physical. So, for instance, again, with a lot of building work that is going on, this can be a major disruption to people, for instance, that have autism and other kind of illnesses where you have to kind of, for instance, maybe noise, and that kind of disruption will really affect you. So I was in a meeting yesterday with Charlotte, who's from the Disability Action Group, and we spoke about how we could tackle that. For instance, bringing in a hashtag that would be updated daily, telling people about what disruptions they can expect today and what places they potentially could avoid. And then I think that should also be extended to the wider university as well. So, for instance, if there is going to be building work happening, that you'll know and you'll be prepared for that, again, to make sure that everyone has the best possible time that they can at the university. Finally, with clubs and societies as well, I quite like every club and society to have specific equality and diversity training so that they will be made aware of these issues, and perhaps having a minimum number of accessible events every year, again, to make sure that societies are inclusive and they are thinking about issues that might not necessarily directly concern them if they don't have a disabled student on their committee, for example, or an LGBTQ member on their committee. So, yeah.
Thank you. Alan, coming to you next. Your manifesto also alludes to having access coordinators, so maybe you'd like to speak to that in this question.
Yeah, well, I think the question you asked first was, do I think that Leeds is accessible?
And how would you tackle making LU more accessible?
I'm a postgrad. I did my undergrad at a different university, and I would say it's more accessible than some universities, but like Natasha said, nowhere near accessible enough. And I want to have a named and trained accessibility coordinator in every society, and it be very obvious, explicitly stated who that person is, so that you don't have to send 3 emails to try and find out who that is before you can talk about it. And I want to hold an accessibility awards evening that celebrates clubs and societies that are accessible, that have worked towards accessibility. So, yeah.
Thank you. Kai.
In my position as a learning champion for 3 years, I go out to the community to welcome them to Leeds University, particularly Leeds Union, our union building. Right now, it's because of the renovation, I could not bring them tour around. For every batch that comes to LLC, I bring them out for the tour to the union, promising them that the union ground is a wonderful ground where we practice equality, no problems with disability. But lately, disenchantment have caused a bit of a problem. We are losing fellow students and the trust and the love for the union because of accessibility. If I were to be elected, all society or any form of company who uses the union ground, they will have to sign or pledge themselves to this equality badge, where they will treat disability, any student who's walking down the union ground should be treated equally because they are students unless otherwise. Because these days it's like Russian roulette. Is he not? Are they not? Why not be safe and take out all this segregation and call each other just students? So accessibility is for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kai. So my next question is about how your role will require you to juggle the importance of many different liberation groups and meeting their expectations, how will you effectively advocate for and be an ally for liberation groups that you don't necessarily define into? Kai, I'm going to come to you for this question first.
The position is titled Equality and Diversity. It's hard for me to take a hard line for any specific society or groups. Being equal and diverse is itself a task. But if I could practice that ethos, I'm sure I get on with every society. Besides, diversity is the key for this 21st century. Thank you.
And Al?
I think it's important to recognize that the people who are in the best position to tell you what their needs are and how to meet them are the people experiencing those barriers themselves. So I'll regularly meet with people and have forums so they can raise their particular concerns, so that I make sure that I'm assessing and addressing everyone.
Thank you. And Natasha?
Yeah, definitely. That's a really important point that you've made. I think part of the role, the reason why it's so complex is because you have to kind of represent so many different people at once. Naturally, kind of experiences that you have will allow you to identify with certain issues more than others, but I definitely feel that working with the liberation coordinators, a lot of people, the problem is a lot of people don't actually know who they are and know that they do represent you and that they are to be used as a port of call if you do need help in any way. So again, the kind of things that I might not be able to identify with, I'll go to the liberation coordinators and work closely with societies, encouraging that discourse and having that conversation with them to make sure that I can and will represent as much people as I can.
Thank you. Just a reminder that we're taking questions from the audience on Twitter and Facebook. You can use the hashtag LEAD_LUU or write on the question time event. So Al, this question is coming to you first. How do you plan on continuing the work done so far with the liberation coordinators that we were just talking about, such as the History Month that we're in right now with disability awareness and Black History Month across the calendar year?
Hi. Yeah, I think that comes under my particular thing, which is solidarity, which is making sure that these events continue and that they connect with each other, so they're not just happening in isolation, and that they involve everyone that's affected by those issues.
Thank you. Natasha?
Yeah, definitely. As I said, I've been here for 4 years. I've seen a lot of progress and a lot of new campaigns that have been introduced. For instance, the Disability Awareness Month that we had this year, before it was just a week. So we can see how a lot of progress has been made, and there's definitely a lot more to do. I also remember when I was in first year, and I think for Black History Month there was like 2 events, but now Melissa has just completely changed it. And again, if I was to be elected, I'd make sure that I continue the relationships that she has set up, that Gemma has set up before as well, and the ones that Emma has done, specifically this year with the LGBTQ History Month as well. Again, there's just been so much progress, and just continuing that would be something that is really, really important.
Thank you. And Kai? Yeah, so the question is, how do you plan on continuing the work done so far with the liberation coordinators we were talking about?
I will robustly work with them over and over again. Sometimes all policies and all manifestos that is done by our wonderful executive need to be revisited. I will robustly act on them and create more shared events amongst faculty, and not only within this university, among university and outside to the community where the work lies and the interests are. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll have one more here and then we'll head over to Carl. So let's go to Natasha first. How would you try to get the other officers that you'll be working with in the exec team to prioritise equality and diversity concerns in their work?
Yeah, definitely. I hope that everyone who is running understands the benefits of having an inclusive union. I'm sure they do. And if I was to be elected, I'd obviously be in an office with them 24/7, so I won't allow them to forget. You can rest assured. Also, I think it's important to hold people to account. So, for instance, if there is something that I feel is not being addressed, to not hesitate and address people and say, look, this is wrong, and you've forgotten to do this, or whatever it might be. So, it's about having that approach and being blunt and being honest, because at the end of the day, equality and diversity, it's not funny, it's not a game, it's a really serious issue, and a lot of people are being marginalized, and it's not right that, for instance, as I mentioned before, if you might not struggle with something that a minority group does struggle with, that doesn't give you the right to ignore it. So yeah, maintaining that approach and just being firm and making sure that everyone is always working towards to achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you. Kai?
If I'm elected with my new bosses and team, they will be so closely united that each issue, each event, each organization, each policy will include each and every one of them. I can't act on my own without the disability group, without the activity group. So we will get closer, like the X-Men or the Super Justice League. We will work together, but I call deeps on Wonder Woman. Thank you.
Thank you. Al?
I think, like both of the candidates said, it's important to, we'll be close to each other, but I think it's important to keep an eye on all of the policies that are being enacted, because I was sitting here and listening to the community officers talk, and it's not to call anyone out or anything, but talking about housing, but there wasn't a discussion of accessible housing, about what would be done to meet access needs in terms of finding houses in the community or finding places to stay post-university. It's not clear what to do to get your access needs if you develop a disability during your studies. So that's something that you would work with. Talking with the Griffin about, also earlier, about how to increase participation in equality and diversity. It's about liaising with all of those people so that their campaigns and their policies can't forget equality and diversity.
Thank you, Al. So I'd now like to hand over to Kyle to get some questions that have come in from students on Twitter and on Facebook.
Our first one to the candidates seems to be, what will you do to engage and support student parents?
Let's come to Al first.
Hi. To engage and support student parents, I think there's a student parent and carer society, and I think it's making it clear that exists, and that everybody who can access that is accessing that. But it's making clubs and societies aware that it's not always, just because we don't have necessarily as many lectures in the evening, that doesn't mean that everybody's available in the evening. It's about making sure that there are social events on a variety of times, and making sure that student parents and carers are available of the local services in Leeds that are available to support them while they study.
Thanks, Al. Kai?
Parents are students too. We leave our children just to have this education. We need all the support. With the current tax bracket benefit card, we are really short. We have to decide whether it's our children healthy food or heating or an internet access. Coming back to this election, I can't afford media. I hope the next election we must have the manual way, because some of us don't have internet connection. And this is a lot what parents experience. With the card, we can't afford heating, we could not afford extra expenses, taking our kids out to holiday. But what we can do here in university is just to look upon them as students. They're required to be included in social events, in policies, in drawing up an organization or society. They are long been ignored. It's high time we look upon that. We have 700 above parents here in the university, 300 single mom. Such a big number for us to just say they're just a small group. They are a big group, they are a joining group, and they are a driving force to our university achievement. Thank you.
Thanks, Kai.
Yeah, definitely. So with student parents, I was speaking to Emma, the current Equality and Diversity Officer, and she was talking to me about how the refectory are going to bring in their first ever kids menu. And it kind of astonishes me that some of the things that she says, I didn't know that they don't already exist. So again, it's all about being accessible, so making sure that, for instance, there's baby changing facilities around the union, and if we particularly link that to societies, they need to have child-friendly events. We need to really push for that. And also, you know, a student parent is going to want different things from a society than perhaps an undergraduate will. So maybe also pushing for alcohol-free events, or again, just engaging with them and asking them, what do you want from your time at LUU? So one of the policies that I have is pushing for the equality and diversity training for each society, so that societies are aware that these students are coming to their events and that are more than welcome to come, and they should facilitate that 100%.
Thanks, Natasha. So let's get one more quick question from Kyle. And don't forget, you can still get in touch with us using the hashtag LeadLU on Twitter or posting in the Facebook event. So Kyle, what's up next?
So our last question is from the Twitter. It says, what do you think the biggest issue facing disabled students at Leeds is, and how would you solve it?
Okay, thank you. Kai, let's come to you first.
Some disability is invisible, like mine. So how do we help people like this or students like this? It's extreme support by working hard with the, working close with the Student Disability Society and the body. I am hoping to have a rest area for epilepsy sufferers or anybody who have neurological problem. We do not have that. We have quite a high percentage of people with neurological problem here in Leeds University, but we do not have anything to cater for them. If I'm elected, I will work with the disability body to propose a space for them, and also for a space for every single disability students to get further help from the union, support, just a place to chat, to chill, going on and helping, continuing GEMA's all GEMA's manifesto that has progressed us disability and put disability at the forefront of the union's battle. Also lastly, disability has been a main contentious issue for inclusion of society. Our society have not done enough to include our disability students. Accessibility is everything. We can still climb up walls and mountains if you allow us. Just include us. It is embarrassing during the intake this year, during the Freshers' Week, where a lot of disabled students wanted to join normal society, but they find that it wasn't on long time enough and it wasn't included enough. So I hope that will change. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha.
Yeah, so I think probably the biggest issue around treating disability is basically about awareness and education. Again, it comes down to the fact that, unfortunately, if you don't suffer from these problems, that kind of hinders you from being able to identify with it, and it kind of gets put down in your, you don't, take it as seriously as it should be. Again, this university has done a lot increasing the Disability Awareness Week into a month. However, the problem is it still is with engagement. So you can put on a lot of events, but the problem is if people aren't coming to them, that remains a massive issue. And I think that trying to expand on that History Month and trying to make people understand why these issues are relevant to you, even though you might not suffer with them, and sometimes you don't even know that you suffer with them, and you do. I'm definitely a firm believer in the social model that people aren't disabled, but it's that society isn't adapting to you. So I definitely believe in that. From the disability of maybe an hour, I learned so much. So it's just important to just put yourself out there and allowing that dialogue and being open-minded as a person, which will help to help other people to be able to speak to you and get your message across, and likewise get their message across to you. Thanks.
Thank you. And Al?
I think that the biggest issue facing disabled students is inclusion in all areas of the university. It's inclusion in clubs and societies, where clubs and societies either don't know or sometimes don't want to make things accessible. And we can't tolerate that. It's there not being enough disability-specific employment support. So once we leave Leeds University, we can integrate into the community and affect real change. It's engagement in housing, it's engagement even in the lectures and seminars and groups themselves. It's inclusion across all areas of university life.
Thank you, Al. So thanks very much to Kyle. We'll be getting more questions for the following candidates if you want to tweet us in, #LeadLU, or post in the group. For now, I'd like to invite each of the candidates to give a very brief closing statement. So let's start with Natasha.
Yeah, so I hope that you kind of understand what I'm about and what I support. If that resonates with you, please take a look at my manifesto. My hashtag is Speak Up, Vote Tash, and it just centered around speaking up about issues and really not being afraid to get your voice out there. So that's what I'm about, and hopefully if you do like the sound of that, you'll vote for me. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. And Al?
My slogan is I tick all the right boxes. And you can find me at Alf Lewis, ALPH, on Twitter. And if you have a particular area of equality and diversity that you don't think that I've addressed in my manifesto, I want you to come and talk to me, and we'll see what we can do about that. And I know that I would like to win, but if I don't, I plan on liaising closely with whoever does, so that everything that I feel is important is done.
Thank you. And Kai?
For far too long, we have been riding on this super luxurious, high speedboat. Time for a change, folks. Try my paddle steamboat. It may not be fast, super technological. It's scenic. Everybody in the boat will have fun. We will unite together for one same cause. Absolutely fabulous. It may be slower, but everyone is included, and that is what I stand for. We are all students. Why need to call each other any other name but that? So join me in this pledge. If you believe in me, come vote for me. I rule!
Thank you. Please give all of our candidates a warm round of applause. We're now going to take a short 10-minute break, so please feel free to help yourself to tea and coffee and cake, and we'll be back in 10 minutes with the next round of candidates, which is for Education Officer. Well done, guys.
I was tired of my lady. We'd been together too long, like a worn out recording of a favorite song. So while she lay there sleeping, I read the paper in bed, and in the personal columns there was this letter I read. If you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, if you're not into yoga, if you have half a brain, if you like making love at midnight in the dunes of the cave, then I'm the love that you've looked for. Write to me and escape. I didn't think about my lady. I know that sounds kind of mean, but me and my old lady had fallen into the same old dull routine. So I wrote to the paper, took out a personal pad. Though I'm nobody's poet, I thought it wasn't half bad. Yes, I like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain. I'm not much into health food, I am into champagne. I've got to meet you by tomorrow noon and cut through all this red tape at a bar called O'Malley's, where we'll plan our escape. So I waited with high hopes, then she walked in the place. I knew her smile in an instant, I knew the curve of her face. It was my own lovely lady, and she said, oh, it's you. And we laughed for a moment. I said, I never knew that you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, and the feel of the ocean and the taste of champagne. If you like making love at midnight in the dunes of the cave, you're the lady that I've looked for. Come with me and escape. If you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, if you're not into yoga, if you have half a brain, if you like making love at midnight in the dunes of the cave, then I'm the love that you looked for. Write to me and escape.
welcome back to Question Time this afternoon. Thank you all very much for coming. So we've just had a bit of a break. Before that, we were hearing from the Griffin editor and people hoping to be your next community, equality and diversity officers. So now we're going to be moving on to education. I just want to say it's a big day for all the candidates. They're hoping to be your next exec, and obviously this is a really important time for them. And you're going to hear a really wide range of stances, so I'd ask you to be respectful of their opinions and of the audience's opinions as well. My name's Georgia. I'm the forum facilitator here at Leeds University Union, as well as a fourth-year English literature student. So my role this afternoon is to hear different points of view, make sure each candidate gets the chance to have their views heard, to facilitate the questions and to stimulate debate, and also to keep the meeting running to time. I'd like to stress that I'm also impartial and that you may want to applaud at certain points, but if you could keep it to the beginning and the end of each round, that would be greatly appreciated. The way that this afternoon is going to work is that each candidate has the chance to present an opening statement. We'll get some questions. We'll be taking your questions live from Twitter if you want to post in the Question Time Facebook event. And if you don't have access to those social media platforms, just grab anyone who's wearing one of the purple Leadership Raised t-shirts and they'll give you a piece of paper to write it onto. So I hope that all makes sense. Let's get started, and I'd like you to give a warm welcome to the education officers who are hoping candidates running to be the next education officer. Thank you. Come on, guys. Don't be scared. Yeah, another round of applause. So this group of candidates are running to be your next education officer. This position is responsible for representing students to the university to make sure that their education meets their expectations. They also work with reps to make sure students get to have a say in how their course is run. So I'd like to give each candidate the chance to give a 30-second opening statement, and we'll start and work our way down the line.
Is it work? Yeah, it's on. Afternoon. Are you worried about how Brexit's going to affect your education? Do you find it difficult to choose your optional and elective modules? Did you think lecture check-in was a complete and utter cock-up? And would you like more transparency about how your tuition fees are being spent? Then vote for me for someone who's going to fight to protect your education, funding and opportunities from the harm of Brexit, a star-based rate my module system, reform of lecture check-in, and a shorter, clearer guide on how the University of Leeds is spending your money. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom. I'm running for education as well. I'm going to keep this short. Mainly, the themes of my policies and the entire manifesto centre around you and your studies and your experience at university. I think that those things are the key that help you develop as a person during your time at university and help you move on from life after university. So mainly, I want to focus on securing your studies, if it's through course costs or it's through mental health support, and making them more accessible for those who need it, as well as improving your experience within your studies and the union. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Jack and I want to be your next education officer. So priorities for me, if I get in, are enhancing the visibility of student-driven change, ensuring that assessment suits the learning styles of the students that it's designed for and it reflects the amount of effort that they put in on a daily basis, modernising the module feedback process so that students can see what previous students have written about it before they pick their modules, and also keeping you in the loop about the important changes to higher education that are going on at the moment, as it directly affects you and your educational experience at this university. Also, I think we need to be realistic. In my opinion, things like 24-hour libraries can't be tackled until the £800,000 worth of funding cuts to the library is addressed first. So, yeah.
Thank you, Jack. Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I've been on this campus now for 4 years and an active member of this union for just as long. I've worked here, I've been part of societies, and I have drank in the bars and clubs far too much. Therefore, the main focus for my campaign is inclusivity in a number of forms. Firstly, space in the union and university should be designed with you and your well-being in mind. You should be able to access and afford your course. I want to continue to cut hidden course costs is one of my main objectives. And finally, you should feel represented by your union and university. I want to continue the work done by males and expand this to include working students, mature students, part-time students and internationals.
Thank you, Jessica.
Hello everyone, my name is Zach. I'm also running to be your education officer for next year. I feel I'm one of the most experienced candidates I'm the postgraduate law school rep at the moment. I was the undergraduate school rep in the past. I was the president of one of the biggest faith and cultural societies, ISOC, and we also won the best faith and cultural society that year in the Riley Smith Awards. And I was a delegate to the NUS National Conference in the past as well. My 4 main manifesto points: the first one is to push for one 24-hour library. The second is to make sure that lecture capture is consistent across all schools and to make it compulsory when it can be so. The third is to push for personal tutors to have mental health training so they can empathise with the needs of students and support us pastorally. And the fourth is to make sure assessment feedback and exam feedback is consistent with at least 1 page of A4 for all exams and assessments. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Umair, and first of all, I want to be your guys' voice. It's not just me, myself, and we are 31,000 students here. And I really pledge to listen to you guys, and all my policies and all the pledges in my manifesto are reflected by listening to you guys. And there are 5 pledges. Feel free to look at the manifesto. And I've been here 5 years, coincidentally, and I've been here for foundation year, bachelor's, and also master's. And I worked as a course rep and school rep, and also I represent as an ambassador. So I've been well involved in the policies. I've seen the evolution, and I've witnessed this firsthand. And I feel like the work Mel's has done, and the app digitalization, and also lecture capture work can really be put forward to help students deliver value for money. And
That's
by
fine,
improving,
thank
yeah.
you. Thanks, Uma.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and Swapnil?
And knowledge will be increased. That's the motto of our college, and that's what I'm going to talk about. I want to put knowledge into the driving seat of our learning and of our student life. That can be achieved by removing the stress of having grades or examination and replacing it with assignments, smaller assignments that can be done over a fixed period of time. That can be achieved by moving out of the classrooms or the traditional way of learning and teaching. We get more practicals, more workshops for teachers as well as for students. Next, that will be having a more time for books. If there is a class in library over a book, we can provide e-book copies to it on a lease for a specific period of time. And the last one and the most important one is plagiarism checker for a student. While submitting an assignment, you should understand and you should know what kind of plagiarism you have committed, whether there is a mistake in it or not, so that you can do it better next time. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the Teaching Excellence Framework and the National Student Survey are both hot topics at the moment as the government's making some changes towards higher education. To give a bit of background, the TEF is a new rating system that sorts universities into gold, silver and bronze categories. Data from the NSS, the Student Survey, will be used to inform those rankings. So every institution that enters the TEF and receives a gold, silver or bronze medal will be able to raise their fees up to a different level based on what they get. So I'd like to ask candidates, coming to Swapnil first, what do you make of the TEF? Do you think it furthers the marketisation of education, or does it encourage universities to improve teaching standards?
Can you please repeat the question?
Yeah, so what do you make of the Teaching Excellence Framework? Do you think it furthers the marketisation of education, or does it encourage universities to improve teaching standards?
Sorry, I don't know much about the scheme, but I think teaching is, I'm sorry.
No problem. Let's come to Uma.
I think as it stands, we already pay a ridiculous amount of money. It doesn't matter where we're from, it doesn't matter international, EU or British. We're already paying so much money and they want to raise it a bit more. That's absolutely bollocks. And we already have so many different costs, so hidden costs, lab-based work, printing credits if you have paper submissions. And they also want to add up into all these costs with Teaching Excellence Framework. They're just putting a nice fancy name to it. I think I don't support it at all personally, and I feel it's going to harm the future generations as well. So.
Thank you, Zach. It's always on.
Sorry about that. So I'm not a fan of TEF. So the Teaching Excellence Framework seeks to rate universities into the gold, silver, bronze standard. So I think the way I see it, it does seek to market and commodify education. My personal view is that I think education should be free. I don't think we should pay a penny, be it 9K, be it 3K, or be it 1K in the past. The fact that TEF's actually seeking to increase university fees, so for the next year, University of Leeds students who are coming in as first years will pay £9,250, and the cap may one day by 2020 be actually removed. I think that's very bad news for students. And the fact that we do have hidden costs as well, I think that's not a very good thing for students, and we do need to keep campaigning against this. I'm not a fan of TEF, and if elected as your education officer, I would really want to keep campaigning against it as Mel's has done in the past.
Thank you, Jessica.
I think I agree with many of the candidates. I do not agree with TEF. It actually isn't representative of what universities actually achieve. So if you take a year out after university, that would be a bad mark against your university, would actually that could develop you as a person, and you can get a job in anywhere, and that would count towards your university. So you could get a job you probably could have got before university, and that would act for TEF and for like your university be able to improve and raise their tuition fees. What I found interesting is when this went through the House of Lords, one of the Lords actually said about Theresa May and her establishment, administration. You know the cost, but not the value of education, which is something that I think like exemplifies TEF. The idea that they know how much it costs, but not actually how much value is derived in society from educating our young.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, I really echo what the other candidates have already said. I'm firmly against the TEF. I think it is harmful to higher education, but also the aspirations of people who want to reach universities like ours. If we do get a gold standard, which is highly likely, then the university could, in the future, increase its fees to £12,000, and this would seem to put the university and others like it even more out of the reach of students who may already struggle to get to institutions like ours, and that's simply not fair. But on a more basic level, the Office for Students say that they can make arrangements for the assessment of the standards for higher education. This is frankly scary. They're basically saying that they can choose how, what is important in higher education and what you should be learning, and we should be really concerned about that and how the Office for Students can kind of impact this university. And you guys need to be kept in the loop, and you need to know what the uni are going to be doing about it.
Thank you, Tom.
I agree with most of the other candidates as well in that the TEF is bad for students, but I also think it's bad for universities in general, as well as increasing course fees. When the original tuition fees went up, it masked the fact that at the time the government also cut funding from governments. And in this case, if universities were to be ranked lower as bronze, when they lower their tuition fees, the government isn't going to make up that money for them, and they're most likely going to end up going bankrupt. When Leeds Beckett tried to keep their fees the same when tuition fees went up, they almost went bankrupt. And that creates a space for private education providers.
Thank you, Andrew.
Well, yeah, I would agree with the rest of the candidates. I think it's a load of bollocks. But I think the fact that the National Student Survey is being used to justify putting up our fees is just not okay. I don't agree with the boycott because a lot of the information is important to people who are coming to uni and who need that information. But it does break my heart that it's going to be justified to raise those fees because I don't come from a high-income background. Like, I know a lot of my friends who were put off going to university because of the fees, and it's just going to make that situation worse, and that's not okay.
Thank you. So a couple of you in your answers have highlighted the hidden course costs that have come to the fore in debate recently. On the topic of the cost of education, how do you propose to tackle these hidden course costs? And Jack, I'm coming to you first.
Well, with hidden course costs, I think it needs to be done on a more locally based level. So the best people to tackle them are your course reps and your school reps. For example, in history at the moment, I'm in conversation with the head of the information resources budget at the library, trying to remove the cost of course packs for students because it's unfair for history students to be given their core reading packs and then say, oh, well, you actually have to pay £20 for those. And that's just simply not on, shouldn't be the case. And the best people to do that are the school reps in the individual schools. They know the course costs that affect them, and they can take them to the education officer, they can take them up to the library, and they can really push through the department to say, this is not okay, and we need to make a change about this. And the education officer's support of the school reps and the course reps and making them visible and making people know that they can go to these people with these problems and that they will be solved is something that I'm really keen to implement if I do become education officer.
Thank you, Jessica.
I have to agree with Jack on certain points. There has to be a grassroots level to this. So we need to understand through school reps and course reps where the cost is incurred. However, I believe it should be more of an institutional-wide search. So there should be a survey done across how much each sort of subject spends additionally to their £9,000 a year, and then to make it so that more areas are pushed, more money is pushed into more areas which more money is spent. So in some subjects, they don't have to buy anything extra. In some subjects, that you might have like history, English, graphic design, things like that where you have to buy materials, books. It's not acceptable, and course packs, as Jack said. It's not acceptable that why is my £9,000 seem to be worth less than somebody else's £9,000 per se? So I think what's happening right now, as was done with sport about 3 years ago, is that they're assessing how much cost is incurred at university and then encouraging the university to make up the difference.
Thank you. Zach?
I agree with both previous candidates. Jack and Jess both made some very good points. And going back to the issue of TEF, obviously because fees are increasing next year to £9,250 for first years, the university does have the pool of money to play with. I really think it's a good idea to start on a local level, in particular because with course reps and with school reps, if you feel that students are enacting the change themselves within their school, within their course, I think students themselves campaign around the issue, and it's very important to make students feel as involved as possible. The bottom line is the school, the faculty, the university is meant to represent all students together. So I think when you have students from each school working on their campaigns within the school, on school level and on faculty level, I think that's a very, very good idea. And the university does have the money to play with, as I said before, and it's really paramount. The fact that we're paying £9,000, or international students are paying even more money, which is horrendous, I think that the university really does have to tackle this. Thank you.
Thank you. Uma?
I think firstly we need to elaborate the concept of hidden costs. A lot of people actually don't understand what it actually is. Hidden costs can actually occur when you have paper-based assignments and you have to go for printing credits, and that's not covered by your tuition fee. Anything that based from lab work equipment, all of these need to be feed into the prospectus when people are applying for the course themselves. It needs to be made fully aware that this is much you should be paying, and the facilities need to be aware as well that this is what you will be paying for, and this is how much you'll be paying for, this is how university will be helping you. It's pretty much clear, and right now it's not. And getting students' opinion is not going to help them straight away, but it will help us if you come in for the prospective students. And that's what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Swapnil?
I guess that hidden costs might affect the international students more, because the international students are not aware exactly of what are kind of costs are incurred during the process of education over here. Because I have been here for just 4 or 5 months. I exactly don't know what are the hidden costs that I might have for my presentation, for my projects and all. So it should be made very clear by the university or the course rep or the school rep beforehand what kind of costs they are going to incur. Now in some schools and in some different schools, the cost will be completely different. So there should be a middle way or mid path between the schools so that they can understand what kind of hidden costs they can incur on the students, and it should be made available to all the students. And university should have a middle path between them so they can have a talks with the students as well as with the faculty members how to they can culminate the costs and all. Thank you.
Thank you. Drew?
Okay, yeah, so the first thing that I just want to touch on here is about like books and course materials. Now my department, we don't really have that many compulsory core books once you get past first year. But in first year, the department actually gives you a voucher so you can go and get them from the university bookshop across the road from Parco, and they subsidise most of the costs. Now, that should be happening across the university because you shouldn't have to be paying like £40–50 for stuff in your first week of uni when you're paying £9,000 a year. So that's something that I'd like to see rolled out and made equal across every department, every faculty. The second thing is printing costs. Now, we're paying £9,000 a year. The Vice-Chancellor's taken home nearly £300,000 a year, and I've still got to pay to print. Like, what? That's not okay. Like, I get that you don't just want to have free printing because you'll get people printing out every single Harry Potter book just for the crack because they want to and they want to get their money's worth. But you should be given an allocation for each module you study that allows you to print the amount that is needed to be printed for that module, and therefore it prevents the excess printing, but also means that you're not printing for the printing that you are actually required to do. Now, the third thing that I just want to touch on is going back to tuition fees, like we're talking about hidden course costs here. One thing that's in my manifesto is that I want to make it more transparent about how your tuition fees are being spent. At the moment, if you want to find that information out, there's a 35-page document on the university website which you'd have to read. And now I'm no expert in accounting, so I can't really understand it. And my department's just invested in an £18 million new microscope, and I'm sure that I'd actually need to use it to read the writing because it's not that small. Because it is that small, sorry. So I think that we need a shorter, clearer guide on how that's being spent so that you guys can better scrutinise that and can better pressure the university to spend your money how you want it to be spent. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tom?
The main point about hidden costs that has come out, we're talking to most students and has been brought up here already, is the fact that they're not standard across most of the schools in the university or across faculties. Things like printer credits, certain students get an amount of free credits every year, some get some in first year, some get none at all. I definitely support the idea of making it standard for modules as opposed to schools and courses. I don't have anything more to say about it.
Thank you. We're just going to quickly return to Zach, who had a point about Jack's point.
Thank you very much. One of the candidates was speaking about 24-hour libraries and how he doesn't think it's realistic. And I understand that it's a very fair point for him to make. But I've been here at the University of Leeds for 4 years. Nearly every single year there's an education candidate who lobbies for 24-hour libraries. And this still hasn't passed. One of the issues is the fact that I think 3 or 4 education candidates in recent years have lobbied for this. It means that if another education candidate who actually gets the vote ends up becoming education officer, the university will have no choice but to listen to students because he or she will have a direct mandate. This is one issue. Second of all, the University of Leeds prides itself on being an outstanding research institution. We were University of the Year in 2017. Compared to many other universities, Russell Group or not, we don't have this 24-hour library. We do have clusters, but the issue with the clusters, they're not very well lit. You can't take books out. Some students don't feel secure in them, and they're just not very well known. You don't know about them till your 3rd year. Students are a very, very diverse group. Some work part-time, some have very long days, so they go home to relax later and then they want to study. Some are very early risers. I think the University of Leeds, being a very diverse institution as well, needs to cater to the needs of all students. Pushing for one library, being Laidlaw Library, being the smallest and cheapest to run, especially with the course costs increasing next year as well, I do think that this is a very realistic aim, and if elected, I will have a direct mandate from students. And as a school rep, this is something that I did explore for a while as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. Jessica?
Just a point here, the idea of having Laidlaw Library, the only library open 24 hours, would actually discriminate against other students who are in different subject courses. So what might be useful for us as art students, and you know what, Laidlaw being open for me was pretty fantastic 24 hours a day, but for other students such as people who need health sciences who aren't represented, but their exam periods aren't represented through the library opening times. My friend is a dentist and has exams in a couple of weeks' time. She can't get to the library on a Sunday till midday. That is absolutely ridiculous. Rather than trying to push for one 24-hour library, we should instead be pushing across the board for representative opening hours.
Thank you. Jack?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what Jess just said there. I think that education officers in the past, as Zach has said, have campaigned for a 24-hour library and it's not been successful. Those officers each year have had a successful mandate from their students. They've said in their manifestos they were going to do it, and they've not been able to. And so instead, what we should be doing, as Jess has said, is we should be trying to standardise library opening hours. Libraries should be open before 10 o'clock, especially Laidlaw on a Sunday. We shouldn't have to leave Brotherton at 4:30. I think that's slightly ridiculous. The amount of times I've been kicked out of level 2 without realising the time is ridiculous. So definitely we would like to change that. I think it's the little changes, like Jess says, standardising things. And also, as I was saying at the beginning, the library is undergoing £800,000 worth of cuts at the moment, and that is affecting staffing levels, it's affecting the hours that they can put staff on, and it's affecting also the resources that they can offer you. So we need to tackle those things before we can suddenly go to the university and say, well, actually we want to expand all of the libraries, resources, we want to expand its staffing hours. We should be trying to tackle the problems that are besetting it right now, rather than trying to overreach.
Thank you. Tom, did you want to add anything to that?
I was wanting to mention that with the issue of 24-hour libraries, I think it would be suitable to push for a 24-hour library if the issue was that the library was accessible to everyone in the university at some of the time. As it stands, the libraries are accessible to some of the people, some of the time. There are still a lot of accessibility issues for disabled students in the libraries. Laidlaw on Monday, the elevator stopped working, so if you had a physical disability, I imagine you couldn't access the books. Brotherton Library recently got a lift, but a single lift doesn't make an entire library accessible. I'd want to push for more accessibility in libraries first, before maybe considering expanding the hours.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on. Nationally, white students are over 15% more likely than their black peers to secure a first-class or 2-1 degree. The gap contrasts with schools, where many ethnic minorities outperform white pupils at GCSE level. Do you plan to tackle this attainment gap, candidates, and if so, how? Tom, I'm coming to you first for this one. Drew?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, of course, that's something to tackle. Like, that's disgusting. That's so bad. But as you can probably see, I'm not BME. Like, I don't identify as that group, and I'm not going to sit here and say I can do X, Y, and Z for this demographic when I don't identify as part of that group, so I don't know the issues that they face every day. Like, that would be almost patronizing for me to do that. So I think what's important is that I actually make the active effort to go and engage with those students and speak to those students and say, look, what are your issues that you have? What do you think is preventing you from achieving your best, or what obstacles is the university putting in your way, or what other issues do you have outside of university that we can work to help? Because I can't sit here and say that I know all of those things when I don't identify as part of that group.
Thank you.
In terms of bridging that gap, I think a lot of it comes from support from other areas in the university. If the support needs to be mental health-wise or welfare-wise or in other areas, as well as helping with the diversity in modules. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought entirely.
No problem. Jack?
Yeah, I think coming from history, I think it's quite obvious when we're sat in lecture theatres, especially in first year, that the majority of the lectures and my seminars are white, British, and you do notice this, and you do think about the reasons for this. And as you said, as I said at the start, is quite shocking, and I think like what we need to do to kind of improve this situation is maybe focus more on the outreach programs that the university already uses. I mean, I know they already spend quite a lot of money through them, but I think these can be standardised across different areas, different schools. I know history uses ambassadors that go into schools in different areas of the country to try and recruit people from lower income backgrounds and more diverse backgrounds, and this is the kind of thing, especially with the implementation of the TEF, this is the kind of thing that needs to happen more. People should feel that they could come to university to study whatever subject they want, from whatever background, and we really need to push this home in those communities. So we need to really ask ourselves why we're not getting the people from these different kind of backgrounds in.
Jessica?
Thank you. I've actually worked at what Jack was talking about. I worked as part of the Access to Leeds. It's called, what was it called? Leeds Love History. And I went into schools and I went and talked to people about why studying at university was actually the best idea for them. And the idea is access, why these people cannot feel like they can access education and why they can't aspire to be further in education. The higher the rung you get up in the university, the less representation there is for BME people, for LGBT and for women. And we are 50% of the population is put out there. And also, it's things like, how would I combat that? Well, you go and talk to the people, as Drew said. You go to societies, the African Caribbean Society. I'd be happy to have ISOC and any other societies who deemed that they felt they were being held back because of their race. Yeah.
Zach?
I echo all the sentiments of the previous candidates. I think they've all made some very good points. But this question in particular relates to one of the points on my manifesto. So one of the points I've got down is the fact that I think personal tutors need a lot more mental health training. So unfortunately, as has been previously mentioned, many students of BME background, many students of LGBT and disabled students and female students, unfortunately, when it comes to dropout rates, are overrepresented. So if personal tutors are more trained in mental health, if they can empathise with the needs of their students, if they can offer more pastoral care, if more personal tutor meetings are scheduled. At the moment, too many students only meet their personal tutor, maybe once or twice a semester. I remember when I was in first year, I had a semesterly meeting. And quite often, it's just an issue of personal tutors don't really advertise the fact that they may have an open door policy. So a student being able to see their personal tutor, not just chatting about how their exam grade was or how their essay went, but telling them, look, I'm having issues living away from home. I'm having issues with my family. I'm having issues with my friends. I'm having issues with my course costs. Having that open relationship with your tutors, who themselves were university students maybe only 10, 20 years ago, and sometimes even less. So sometimes I think that's a really, really good point. And I really think that personal tutors should have this training. And at the same time, as the previous candidates mentioned, I think there does need to be more investment into outreach programs like Access to Leeds and making sure that the university works with these underrepresented groups. Thank you.
Thank you. Uma?
Thank you. If I may ask to repeat the question was to 15% of the white people perform better.
Yeah, so it's about how white students are more likely to achieve first class or 2-1 degrees. How do you plan to tackle the BME attainment gap?
Right, so first I'd like to talk about the gap between the percentage marks. This is something that I worked as a school rep in LUBs, and what we have found out that a lot of case studies that are being used in the courses and the curriculum are just biased towards, I don't want to say it, but towards white policies, and they're not inclusive enough. We have a lot of international students, a lot of people from different backgrounds, and the case studies especially need to reflect that. You need to be able to be marked on the things that you might come from, that you can relate to yourself, not something that you're just being taught on. You need to be able to reflect on that. And the BME gap, it's really important. I came from International Foundation Year background, and I worked with Access to Leeds as well. And it's quite important to get people into the education set scenario. And in order to do that, we need to actually help them, not just let there be a system that's established already. We need to help them, we need to go and talk to them. What is the problem that you're facing? What is it that you will actually need to be done? It's not just let it be, this is it. We need to go and talk to the people. That's the main point.
Thank you, and Swapnil.
Sorry, but can you please repeat the question again?
Yeah, the question is about white students outperforming BME students at degree level, and how do you plan to tackle this attainment gap, and if so, how?
You're talking about white students and 15% greater, right?
Yeah, so the statistic I gave was that nationally white students are 15% more likely than their black peers to secure a first class or 2-1 degree.
Now the main thing between the students will be the background. Okay. Not only their academic background, but also from the family they are coming from, the overall social background they are from. Now that is also responsible for their mental health. Now, like Zach said, they should be having a personal tutor relationship with the personal tutor. But the problem with the personal tutor is we are expecting too much from that tutor. Okay, so the union should provide a counseling to them as well. Now, this counseling should be not only academic, but also related to their social background. Because sometimes students are more comfortable with the friends. Union is nothing but the friends of the student. So they are more comfortable with the students rather than being comfortable with the tutor. So tackling about the background is one thing. Now next thing I like to say is it's always about the students. We cannot discriminate students on the basis of their color. So it's not necessary that only 15% of the white students are greater to achieve or some first class as compared to the black peers or something like that. But it is also depending upon the students. So it is not, I cannot express it, but it's a little bit discriminating when you say this kind of things, like 15% of the white students. Why do we need to discriminate between the students? So if an education officer, if I am elected as an education officer, now the most of all important thing is to avoid this kind of discrimination or to avoid any kind of bias. Now this can be done with having a contact with the course rep or the school rep, or in general with the students with different societies, having a good rapport with them and trying to understand what exact situation is present over there, whether it is only a bias or whether the students are like that.
Thank you very much, Swapnil. So we'll take one quick question from Kyle. People have been getting in touch on Twitter, #LeadLUU. And if Kyle would like to ask the question, any candidates are welcome to respond to it, and then we'll move on. Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Georgia. The one we'll use from the Twitter is, what support would you look to offer other officers in your role as education officer?
Jessica.
I think because we're at a university, education is actually at the centre of everything. So welfare, half of their work will be helping students who are in education keep their mental health. Equality and diversity are working with students to ensure this gap between students, which we just spoke about, is addressed. I think Union Affairs is working with the union and the university to make sure the union keeps on getting funding and that we have access to facilities here at the union. And I'm trying to think of the other officer. Community, working with students. The community, everything draws back to education and back to students. And I think that's what the main point is. We're all meant to be centralised around this idea that everything has to do with education. So personally, it's all going to be about meetings, about inter-office, sort of communication and inter-office sort of projects. So, Mel's ran Why is My Curriculum White? things like that, is dealing with equality and diversity and education all in one bubble.
Thank you. Let's hear from two more candidates. Who wants to come in on this? Drew and then Jack.
Hi. So yeah, I think it's really, really important, in particular, like Jess has said, for the education officer to work with welfare and equality and diversity, because to me, these are the two main things that are going to affect your education. So two of the points in my manifesto relate specifically to this question, actually. One of them being like building on what Mel's has done with Why is My Curriculum White, and pushing for more equality in the curriculum. And the second one being that so a lot of students who have placements, particularly those who are healthcare students, are travelling like late or early, alone in dangerous areas of the city or out of the city, and they don't really get much protection for that. And to me, that's not really great when the university's raking in £635 million a year. So I think they should all be provided with free attack alarms, and I'd work with the welfare officer to bring that in. And I also think that having been on a departmental society committee for the last 3 years that I've been at Leeds, it would be really nice to see more cooperation between school reps and their academic societies, because at the moment there isn't a lot of scope for working together there, and I think it would be nicer to work with the activities officer and bring those together to increase the representation on both sides of that relationship.
Thank you. Okay. In the interest of time, we'll just hear from Jack quickly and then wrap it up here.
Yeah, sure. So I echo what the two candidates have just said, and to add to this, I think it would be important to work with the welfare officers, something I would really like to do in signposting, kind of more help for mental health, and take this pressure kind of off the schools necessarily. I really don't agree with the idea that personal shooters should be given mental health training. These are academic staff, these are lecturers, these are professors, and I feel it would be unfair to put that kind of burden or that kind of, that kind of help on their shoulders. It's not what they're there for. I think there needs to be increased signposting to areas of the university that already help with this, and improving those institutions already. I also think there's an issue with special circumstances for exams and the issue of applying for those. It's not standardised across the schools, and it can be stressful for students as well to try and apply for this. So I'd like to work with the welfare officer also and fix that.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll now give each of the candidates time to give a very brief closing statement. If you could keep it to 10-15 seconds. Zach, would you like to go first?
Okay, thanks everyone for listening in. So I just want to repeat that I think I have the experience to be your education officer. I've seen both the undergraduate and the postgraduate sides. I've represented both sets of students, and I was also a society president, and at the same time I've represented you on a national level in the National Union of Students Conference. My manifesto points are very, very clear. Push for a 24-hour library, lecture cap should be consistent, mental health care in terms of personal tutors, and making sure that assessment and exam feedback is very clear. Please follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Let's back Zach. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Umar.
Hey guys, this is the manifesto, and this is all what you have said, and this is all what I want to run for and possibly achieve. And if you really look forward to getting to know me, please follow Vote for USA. Just follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Swapnil.
First of all, I'd like to thank the union and thank you the students present over here, and vote for the candidate that you feel deserving. I'm not being selfish over here. I don't want to say that vote for me. Vote for the candidate that you feel deserving, but make sure that you vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Drew.
To me, being a good leader, and by extension, being a good exec officer, is as much about what you stand for as how you stand for it, and the values that you hold as a person and the principles that you uphold as a person. I hope that over the last 40 minutes you've got a feel for me in that sense, and it's something that I'd very much encourage you to consider when you're placing your vote. Thank you.
I'd just like to say before voting comes around that I believe that all areas of the exec are about supporting you as students for your education. Your education should not be about focusing things outside of what you're learning, and things outside of what you're learning shouldn't get in the way of it, and they should support you in your education. Thank you.
Thanks. Jack?
Thank you. I'd just like to say that I've enjoyed my time as a course rep and a school rep over the last 2.5 years so much, and the chance for me to kind of continue this kind of work, but on a massive scale, for improving the lives of students' education at this university is something that's really exciting for me, and something I would really, really appreciate the opportunity to do. So like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, and vote Jack for Education on Monday.
Thank you. And Jessica?
Thank you for listening to me. I appreciate that rabble on. I'm just standing for better university places and union spaces. You should be able to access your degree through and make it affordable. And also you should be represented by your degree. It's all about inclusion, representation and access. Vote Jessica Mifsud Benici for Education Officer 2017.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll be back in a couple of minutes with your chance to grill the candidates hoping to be the next activities officer. Please give a warm round of applause to all of your education officer candidates. everyone, welcome back to Question Time. So the next group of candidates running to be in the exec are for the Activities Officer position. They are responsible for making sure clubs and societies help students feel happy and healthy, and they also work with the Activities Exec to make sure clubs and societies are relevant to students and ensure that they are well supported. So if you would join me in giving a warm welcome to the candidates hoping to be your next Activities Officer. Thank you. Okay, so first up, I'm going to invite each candidate to give a 30-second opening statement. So we'll start at the end of the line and work our way along with Harry.
Hello. Oh, hi, I'm Harry. So I'm obviously running for Activities Officer. For me, one of the key things that I want to do is make sure that you, whatever society you are in and whatever activity it is that you are doing, it's just making sure that you absolutely love it. When you leave university, you're not going to remember sitting in a lecture hall. You're going to remember going on the socials with your mates from your society, and you're going to remember doing the activities, whether it's sport or music or anything else. So just making sure you absolutely love your time in the societies.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rihanna, and my main manifesto points are to focus on awareness and support for everyone, whether you're in a society already or whether you've just joined uni. I want everyone to know what's happening, when it's happening, where it's happening, in terms of socials and funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess.
Hello, is that Anya?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Jodie Jess. I'm the president of Freestyle Dance, and I work in Fruity. And can I just ask, put your hand up if you come to the union every week. Put your hand up, yeah. Come to the union on a weekly basis, yeah, yeah. Keep it up if you come in every day, yeah. 10,000 students use this union every day, and I want to give something back to them. I want to create some union loyalty cards for students who engage with societies and in the union. I want to improve the efficiency. I want to get some printers in the union. I want a 24-hour reply system, and I want to support societies. I'll get back to that one.
Thank you. Talia.
Hi, I'm Talia. I'm the current president of Spoken Word Society. I also work in Terrace, and I do a lot of backstage, so I practically live in this room. I really want more support for all clubs and societies. I want to focus on employability, providing inclusive policies and incentives. I want you guys to have your say in how the new room booking system is going to work, and I want to help clubs and societies network with each other. So basically, essentially, making committees' jobs easier so that their members in societies can enjoy them, and also for all students.
Thank you.
I'm Kieran. I suppose I'm the founding secretary and current secretary of ice hockey. I want to, realistically, I heard last week that social sports has been cut to a certain degree. I know Eamon's looking at me, not too happy me saying this. I feel that social sports is really important at making sure that all students have the ability to get active and be able to participate. I also heard that rugby have lost numbers due to this because of the cutting of the rugby team, the Rugby Social League.
Thank you. Okay, so let's start off talking about how some of your manifestos outline improving communication with societies as a priority. So I'd like to know how you would go about doing that and what you think is wrong with the current systems in place. So Rihanna, let's come to you first.
Okay, I'm in quite a unique position in that I am on a departmental society in English, and I'm also on a smaller one, which is BPM, and they're a DJ society. And with the departmental one, I got a lot of handover advice, and we got told how our roles work and what to do. And with BPM, we sort of were running around like headless chickens. No one really told us how to do it. We've just sort of winged it. And there's only 1 2-hour session for training in terms of the cash office. And to be fair, it's so long that it goes in one ear and out the other. So I really want to improve the communication between us as a union and the societies and their members themselves, so that they know what they're doing and how they're going to do it and how to implement it. And I want to have an office hour, if I have it just like our tutors do, so that anyone from any society can drop in, ask me how to do things, I'll show them hands down. And yeah, that's how I think we can really improve communication.
Thank you. Harry.
So I think the key with communication is, obviously we have a lot of contact via email, etc., which is great, but of it. Activities, for example, get a lot of emails in. I work in the activities desk, so I know the amount of emails you receive. So it's very difficult to keep in contact that way. So I think face-to-face meetings is definitely the way forward. The way I'd like to implement this is by creating more focus groups with each category of the societies. So, for example, academic societies, the performance societies, not just having your reps come forward, but creating focus groups that are selected differently every time so that you get a wide variety of opinions and we can really help to address the issues that societies have.
Thank you. Kieran? So the question is about improving communication with societies.
Communication, yeah. Yeah, communication with the union, it has improved. Like last year, I was actually told to avoid speaking to my devco because I was becoming annoying by asking really pointless questions, which were important to me, but maybe not for their point of view. There's a lot of examples where communication at between the union and societies has fallen. Like, as you can see here, Felix is here. They tried to run a pre-season camp, and yeah, they lost. What was it? They lost the ability to use the facilities very close to the time after setting it all up. Yeah, it was 3 days. 3 days. Coming from ice hockey, we generally kind of take a back seat to communicating with the union because a lot of our stuff is external, because we train in Bradford, etc. But the communication needs to be improved. A lot of the time, people don't know where they can access funds, what their funds are for, or realistically, even basic things are sometimes just ignored.
Thank you. Talia?
So in terms of communication, what I think is quite important is for the activities team to have a committee drop-in. I also think that the website, with the new website that's coming, it's really important to keep that up to date because it should be the place that students go to look for information about what's going on day to day. Like Harry said, we just get floods of emails. I've been on a committee for 3 years and we just get loads of emails. And even as a student, just on your normal uni email, you get so many that it sort of just becomes a bit of a blur and it's hard to engage. So in terms of being in clubs and societies, I think that having a communal digital platform that all clubs and societies use is going to make communication between committees in the union and also between clubs and societies a lot more efficient in terms of things like networking, committee handover, and also trying to facilitate collaborations as well.
Thank you. And Jess?
So communication, yes. So at the minute, we get the weekly emails every week, which is great from the activities office, and you can see everything that you've got to do. But I think it would be really effective if the activities officer and say the dance rep, performance rep, all the reps were somewhere that you could just go and get an answer straight away. So one of my manifesto points is to have a weekly drop-in session with myself, if I got the role, where people can come and get their questions answered on the day straight away. I think that'll be really effective. Another point for communication is my 24-hour reply system. At the moment, say you send an email and sometimes, I know they must get loads of emails, but sometimes you don't get reply for 7 days sometimes. And I think it would be great if you got an instant reply, because most of the information is online, but committee members just need to find it. So I think it would be great if you got an instant reply. Here's all the information, here's the key contacts you need to speak to. So for sport, here's your sports rep. So you can go, because I know sometimes we'll have issues and they're quite important to our society and we need an answer straight away. So a 24-hour reply system, I think, will be an effective way of communication.
Thank you. Okay, so Jess, this question is going to come straight back to you. So quite a few of you have mentioned the importance of inclusivity in clubs and societies. What are some steps do you think we can take to make clubs and societies more inclusive, and what role do you envision the activities officer taking in order to advance liberation groups and their needs in the activities? Yeah,
definitely. Well, one of my manifesto points is to have a weekly showcase every week in the union. I haven't thought of a name yet. I'm thinking something like Wild Wednesdays or something, but I'm going to have a competition later, so watch my campaign so you can come back and tell us what you think it should be called. That's for advertisement of societies. So I think that's a great way to get a diverse range of students. So if some students say, like, maybe students with a disability taking part in a society, they might think, actually, yeah, I can do that as well. So my weekly showcase in the union will promote opportunities to all students, no matter what background. In addition to this, also my drop-in can be used not just for communication, but also if you have any issues, if society needs certain space for different students' needs, I can work that out. Yeah.
Thank you. Talia.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Of course. So the question is about taking steps to make clubs and societies more inclusive and meeting the needs of liberation groups.
Okay, well, we have a very diverse student demographic here at Leeds, and I think it's important to remember that although there are a lot of us here, we don't all want the same things. Not all students look the same, and I think it's really important that we push for creating events with due consideration. So, for example, one of my policies is to have more inclusivity in terms of events and helping clubs and societies do this so that the pressure isn't on them to do that alone. And one of those things is more sober socials and spaces, and I also want to continue Emma Healy's, I know Emma Healy's the equality and diversity, but I think the roles really overlap. So like continuing students with children's interests, keeping those central. So like child-friendly events and also the kids' menus in the venues here. I also think a really good way to encourage and give an incentive to clubs and societies for being inclusive is to include a new category maybe at the Rileys about like to do with being inclusive. So that will really create like a reward system and push for clubs and societies to want to do this.
Thank you, Talia. Sorry, Kieran, so moving on to you about inclusivity.
One of my manifesto points is about improving the induction process. One of the points about improving that process is it's very, very admin. It doesn't really go to the things like pastoral care, understanding these diverse groups, because coming from ice hockey, a very white-dominated sport, we don't understand the problems necessarily of these liberation groups. Me personally, I do, and I try to be a pastoral carer as best possible. But for some societies, this may not be possible. If someone comes to them with a problem where they may not feel that they are willing to go to the union or to the university regarding it, the committee should be able to at least give them a direction to where to go, or even be able to help them personally. Because we're leaders at the end of the day in committees, and people look to us for guidance. So I feel being able to be taught how to guide is a good step in the right direction.
Thank you, Kieran. Harry?
So one of the key points on my manifesto is accessible societies. I think that there is currently in development a fund for people who have disabilities to be able to join into societies, so we can really try and incorporate as many people as we can into societies. The issue with that currently is there isn't enough information out about how it works, what it's used for, how to apply for it, etc. So I think a really key thing in getting more people involved into societies, specifically people with disabilities, is increasing the size and the information available around the Accessibility Fund. I also think that obviously societies, it would be useful for societies to have more training about other ethnic groups and diversity, just so that it's a lot easier for societies to help include anybody that comes and approaches them, and they can understand everybody's needs.
Thank you, and Rihanna?
Yeah, I really think that committees need to meet up consistently and constantly with those who are on committees for the LGBTQ and the BME students. I think we really need to work closely with them. Our campus is very white, and if you look at this panel right now, we are all white, and I think it's really important that we do get everyone involved in everything, and that we stop, we just bring everyone together, really. I want everyone to come together. One of my points is to create an app, and if it's not creating an app, it's updating our LUU app, and I really want it to be a space or a platform for those that don't like being out in big crowds, or at Freshers' Fair it can be really daunting. You've got hundreds of people, like the tents are packed. You do have quiet hour, but that's just an hour. What if that student isn't out of bed yet, or what if they don't want to get out of bed that day? Like, we need somewhere for them to go so that they feel comfortable without having to go outside of their comfort zones.
Thank you, Rihanna. So we're going to move over to Kyle to get some questions that have come in from students on Twitter and Facebook. Don't forget, you can still be getting in touch with us using the hashtag LEADLU, posting in the Facebook event, or grabbing anyone you see in a purple t-shirt to write down your question. So Kyle, what have we got?
Oh, I'm afraid we're going to have to get people tweeting more because we haven't got many questions coming through. Oh, I've got one from Mike at the moment. Hold on, sorry. Thanks, Ed Jerome. This one's to the candidates. How can we use our clubs and societies to make international students feel more at home?
Okay, so a question about international students. So Kieran, let's start with you.
Again, coming from ice hockey, a sport that is very popular in America and Canada, we do tend to attract people from America and Canada. It's hard to engage with people who may not even know that the sport exists. Maybe advertising the International Freshers Fair directly to international students and say what is actually on offer. Maybe more of a push, because yeah, you're getting an email saying there's an International Freshers Fair, there's a Freshers Fair. They may go to the Freshers Fair because it's more convenient, but I don't really know. Coming from our society, we do all right. We've got a diverse range of people from countries, so I wouldn't be able to tell you how to improve that.
Thank you. Talia.
So in terms of international students, I think it's really important that we go beyond the International Freshers Fair. Although it's great that we have that specifically aimed at international students, we should be doing more past that throughout the rest of the year and making sure that we consider them in planning other types of events. And also when it comes to training committees for clubs and societies, there may be international students who want to join a committee, and they should definitely be encouraged to, but they may feel like they won't necessarily understand the training, considering students here may understand more the framework of how a committee works, potentially. And so having maybe either mini like pre-inductions for those who want to be on a committee but aren't really sure how it works coming to Leeds, that would be...
Yep, Karen.
Wouldn't that be applicable to all people running for a committee? If everyone kind of has a bit of an unclear nature of the thing, that's the point of the communication question. Why would an international student have any more difficulty, except from maybe the language barrier?
No, I'm not suggesting that necessarily, and I'm not suggesting that the language barrier would necessarily be an issue for all international students. Having it's like a pre-induction. It's just a pre-induction for anyone.
Maybe a more casual one to make them more comfortable.
Yeah, it would be for anyone who doesn't understand how to be on a committee, but that would be especially useful for international students who may not understand how committees and clubs and societies work here specifically if they've been at another university in another country.
Thank you. Jess. Oh, sorry, Talia.
Yeah, sorry. Kind of like went in the middle. I was just going to say that being on committee for spoken word for 3 years, I've seen that we've had a lot of international students come to our events, and we've really tried to encourage them to perform in their native language or in English if they want to. It's like basically entirely up to them. I think it's just important that we encourage international students to get more involved, because this is just as much their university as it is any home students.
Thank you, Talia.
Yep, definitely. So I'm the president of Freestyle Dance, and we have a lot of international students. I think a reason for that is I used to be a Leeds for Life ambassador, and I loved the Global Cafe, and I used to go along, and I used to give people, oh, come to Freestyle, and it's open to all. So I think if we encourage the society members to go along to the Global Cafe, have a chat to people, invite them along, I think that's such a key issue. I was talking to one of the person who runs the social sports, and they were actually saying that the most people engaged with social sports is actually international students anyway. So they're doing really well. So sports are doing really well. So I think it's just other societies going to the Global Cafe and reaching out. And obviously participation is one of my key points, because 8% of first years drop out of uni, and I think that's just massive. And I believe if you are part of a society, you find your niche and you find your family, and that's for international students as well. If they find their society, they're going to stay at uni and have a great time. So my way to do this from a manifesto is I'm going to bring societies to halls and freshers. I'm going to do mass give it goes. I'm going to make sure the Mask Give It a Go system is consistent every year. Which dance society is for you? And you can go and you can try them all. You can do that for any category. And also the union loyalty cards. So when you join a society, you can get points, and that also will encourage international students to get points when they engage with societies, and that means prizes. So then you might get the odd free meal deal at Essentials, or you might, do you know what I mean? So participation is key.
Thank you. Rihanna.
With my main key point being awareness, I wanted to send out Give It a Go booklets in the post for freshers before they even arrive. I think it'd be a great idea to get these out to the international students as well. You've got to put your address in once you've applied to uni. We should send them out to these people, get them to get the international to tell us what language they're speaking, publish the Give It a Go in their language. And I think that we should also have international reps for all societies, or start with a departmental and then start to filter it through to the bigger clubs and all of the social ones, because I think it's really important. Like, we all have international students on our courses, and I feel like they really need to have a voice, and I don't think they have enough opportunity to have a voice in what's happening in their world. So yeah, I just really want to get them involved.
And Harry.
So I think we already have all the tools we need to be able to help integrate international students more. So firstly, the international fair it's not very well attended. So I think just generally increasing information about that and increasing the people who know that it's actually happening will help to encourage international students to come and find more societies. Along with that, increasing the knowledge of Give It a Go's. Obviously, there's been a big push in Give It a Go attendance, and that's going very well, but I think that can still be pushed further, and especially brought out to international students to encourage them to get more involved and even just try out a new society. I also agree with the idea of encouraging students to join societies for points and discounts. However, we currently already have Yo-Yo, which obviously is a point system throughout the whole of the university, which is already in place. So my idea would be to talk to societies and see where they use their socials in the union, and look at where the discounts would most help them to encourage members to come along to the socials and therefore be more involved in the societies.
Thank you. Jess, did you want to respond?
Yeah. So obviously we'll have the yo-yo, and I've checked that out. It's great. But the key thing about mine is I work for the union, and I know that the tills are getting upgraded in September. So we will be able to use our own union loyalty system, and I think that'll be so effective. We can get points, not just for things like food. It'll also be engagement. So when you go and get your CV, check that job link, you'll get points. When you go and see a show in the Riley Smith, you'll get points. So it encourages participation and rewards the people who use the union.
Thank you, Jess. Kieran.
I understand what you're saying. A loyalty card probably be nice, mainly for the services. But giving people points for joining societies kind of seems like you're trying to bribe people to join societies. They should join due to other forms of engagement. Do you have any suggestions for other forms of engagement that might help rather than the loyalty card?
Yep, obviously, yes. Yeah, so, sorry,
are you asking, Kieran, are you asking Jess that?
Yeah, I was just asking Jess.
So like what, sorry, so it's, you don't think the loyalty cards will work?
No, the loyalty cards might work in terms of it seems like more of a union affairs type of thing in terms of the services, like, the clubs, the, essentials, etc. But using the loyalty cards by saying, if you join the society, you'll get X points. Well, how do you do, is it just generally across the board, everyone gets X points for joining each society? Or is there a rating system that if you join this society, you get more points? Or it sounds like kind of like you're bribing people to join societies.
It's not bribing, it's just rewarding for people's engagement. But the way I'll work, I don't know specifically how I'll do the point system yet, because obviously I can't just put it in place myself. But I will work with students, and I'll work with all the activities team to see how the system can work most effectively. Yeah, is that all right?
Harry.
Sound, yeah.
So just on the union loyalty cards, obviously this idea has been put forward before, and the reason I decided to go for using the yo-yo aspect as opposed to the union loyalty cards, firstly, obviously I'm not entirely sure how you would gain points for joining society or watching a show, because obviously that would be the union giving money, which is obviously isn't a profitable model, so it's unlikely to be approved. However, using through Yo-Yo, which is already approved by the union and is already being used, you already gain points through that, and that's a proved model and is being used currently. So all we'd be doing is adding on to that and looking at specific societies, as opposed to just having general discounts. It would be, this society uses old bar lots, therefore why don't we look at whether we can give them some form of discount, something like that, in old bar, to encourage their members to stay in the society, engage more in the society, and therefore be part of the union more.
Kieran.
Yeah. Wouldn't it just be easier, rather than, say, giving people prizes for joining societies? Wouldn't it be better to use that funding to reduce the cost of the societies in general, so the students are actually not having to pay as much for the societies?
Yeah, so the way I'll
rather than getting a meal deal?
The way I'll reduce costs is so my sponsorship fair. So at the start of the year, I'm going to have a sponsorship fair for all societies to come in and get their own funding. So for example, Freestyle Dance has KPMG as a sponsor, and not just the fund, we'll get lots of money from them, but we'll also get employability opportunities. And I think this sponsorship fair is a key way for societies to get big funding from corporate businesses and also get lots of employability opportunities.
Well, the main question was, why choose a loyalty card over just using the funding for something else that's
the reason, I'll tell you the truth.
Because that's just giving people stuff for free rather
I'll tell you
than...
the truth. So I work at Fruity every week, and I literally have people coming up to us going, why is there no loyalty cards? I was working in Freshers Fair sitting there, and a boy came up to us and went, I go to all these events all the time. Why is there no loyalty card? So I thought, I'll make a loyalty card, and I'll encourage people, not just the money, also the engagement, because I think engagement and spending, well, to be honest, I spend my life here, so I'd get loads of rewards from it, so I want the loyalty cards.
But doesn't that seem like people have been asking you about it due to services rather than engagement?
It's a bit of both, really, because I obviously asked, I had some of my friends and I asked them about it, and they said to me they would love to be, because at the university actually are working, because I've been talking to the marketing team, and the university are actually working to actually get, so when you get your student cards, they're working to actually get data on you, and they want to know when you're engaged and what you're doing. So it would really, I'd work with the marketing team and activities to help get these cards out there. It's what they're going to do anyway. It's a direction they're heading in.
Okay, guys, I think it's time to wrap up the debate, but you can see this is quite a lively topic. I'm going to give each of the candidates a chance to give a closing statement, but obviously voting opens next week, so you'll have the chance to vote then from Monday onwards based on which candidates' ideas you've liked the most. So let's move on to some closing statements. Talia, I'm going to start with you. Yeah, just keep it short, 10-15 seconds.
Okay, so like I said, I've been a part of Spoken Word, so I've also created a new society while I was on my year abroad, so I know what it's like to be part of a small society, a big society like Backstage, creating a new society, and what it's like to be staff here as well. I really want to reiterate that students don't all want the same things, so check out my manifesto for the full details. Send me a question whenever, I'm very happy to answer. And yeah, Talia for activities.
Thank you. Kieran.
Yeah, I just want to, as my conclusionary statement, I want to try and put more pressure into the improvement of the social leagues, being that the sport and physical activity department want more engagement and activity from all students. I want to improve the communication between the union and societies as a whole. I want to help reduce the costs to all societies for their members mainly. Yeah, that's about it.
Thanks. Thank you. Harry.
So, closing statement, I just want to make sure that if I do get elected as activities officer, I want to make sure that I'm activities officer for every category and every society, and I want to make sure that everyone gets the attention they need and that societies enjoy doing everything they do with as little fuss as possible in all of the difficult areas that we have currently.
Brianna.
Yep, so I will help deliver great funding opportunities for all of you. I'll make sure you're all aware of what's going on, and I will make sure you know when, what, how, and where. So at me, at for activity, because rewind when the union says elector.
Okay, and Jess, thank you.
Yeah, all the other candidates are literally unreal, but I think I bring something special. I'm really passionate about the uni, and during this campaign, I've literally thought, I want to make a change. Like, I want to do the things I want to do. I want to do it. Printers in the union, I'll go to Argos, I'll get one. Do you know what I mean? I want to do this, I really do. And yeah, union loyalty cards I think will be great, honestly. And say yes to Geordie Jess, why I?
Thank you. Okay, so we'll be back in about 7 minutes after a break to get some more tea and coffee. And please give a warm round of applause to all of the candidates running for activities. Okay, hello everyone, welcome back to question time. Your next group of candidates are running to be the Union Affairs Officer. That means that they chair the Board of Trustees and hold staff to account so that the union benefits all students. They're also responsible for overseeing union finances to make sure that the money spent benefits students, and they make sure that the students' needs are met within the union's democratic systems. Don't forget, you can get in touch with us on Twitter, #LeadLUU, or post your questions in the Facebook event for this afternoon, or just grab anyone who's wearing a purple t-shirt and write your questions down, and we'll try and get to them at the end of this section. So please give a warm welcome for your Union Affairs candidates. Okay, so first up, we're going to give each candidate the opportunity to make a 30-second opening statement. So we'll start with Sam once he's got his name badge ready.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is great to see so many of you here, because this is really about you. Next week you get to decide and you take control of your policies and your
Sam,
finance.
sorry, would you mind using your mic? Sorry. Thank you.
And your finance. And I feel like recently students have lost touch with this, that they don't know that the university is, the union, is for them and just for them. The decisions we make depends on what you think. And that's why my manifesto is all points that students have come up to me and said they wanted. So a vote for Sam is a vote for you to take control back of your union.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, it's moving along the line with Charlie.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. I am going to be your next Union Affairs Officer. The reason that you need me is because, as president of the Debate Society, I know how to carefully manoeuvre through the minefield that we're currently living in. Right? We're in a really serious time politically. We've got the rise of fascism all over the place. And alongside that, we need to create a better sense of cohesion in this place. We need everyone to come together, and I've got a series of policies that are going to make sure that happens. For example, gigs. And I'm also going to empower you by giving you workshops to develop your own events and to get involved in the community in your own way. That's why you need to vote for me.
Thanks, Charlie. Ilias.
Now this is the story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there and tell you all about the story of why I'm running for Union Affairs. So, I'm running to make radical change to LUU. Not everyone knows what this university union does, and I'm going to make sure everyone does know what it does. Also, I'm running to make sure that we get more money into the university union. I'm going to have more money for your societies, more money for students, so that you don't keep getting ripped off. Third, I'm running to make LUU lit, which is basically I'm going to bring all the services that students leave the LUU for into the union, like a barbershop, hair salon, and an alternative night out. So vote Ilias for yes. Yes, Ilias for yes.
Jack.
Hi everybody, I'm Jack. I was a third-year history student. This year I've been lucky enough to be the Union Affairs Officer, and I'm rerunning to be Union Affairs Officer. Basically, I'd like to carry on some of the things which I started this year and expand them a little bit. So to go through them, I've got in your voice, I want to amplify the student voice so that marginalised groups of students feel like they're adequately represented in our democratic structures, run campaigns and support student-led campaigns on issues such as Brexit and the changes to higher education which are affecting us and LU needs to take a stance on. I also, it's no secret that I wanted to campaign to increase our funding to the union from the university. If you want to look at... Sorry?
That's time, thank you, Jack.
That's time. Okay, we'll go more on it there.
Thank you. And Alicia.
Okay, hey guys. As I say in Trinidad, what's the scene? My name is Alicia Kai Roger. You'll see Roger everywhere. I just go by it. I am a first year electronic and electrical engineering student from Trinidad and Tobago, which is in the Caribbean and not Spain, and I would like to be your Union Affairs Officer. Now, there's a lot of things that I would like to get done, and don't let the fact that I'm a first year deter you. I will be able to do this job to the best of my ability, and I hope that you agree with the points that I have on my manifesto, and that I give you a reason to vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll start off with some questions based on what you guys have put on your manifestos and have been campaigning about, and also with current affairs. Do you think it's the role of the union and the Union Affairs Officer to support students that are frustrated by recent political events and discourage political apathy in young people? I'm coming to Alicia first for this. Of course. Do you think it's the role of the union and the Union Affairs Officer to support students that are frustrated by recent political events and discourage political apathy in all young people?
I would say, yes, it is the role of the union and the Union Affairs Officer, because I believe that, well, the Union Affairs Officer is probably one of the main representatives of all the students, and so much is going on in the world right now that is affecting not only our local students, but our international students as well. And that's one thing I want to push for, to support our international students a lot more. And we should have, different forums, different people in order for us to discuss these problems, discuss solutions to these problems, and find ways to help the students that are being affected by these problems. Yeah.
Thank you. Jack?
Yeah, absolutely agree. It is the role of the union to represent its membership. If students are being affected by the implications of Brexit, be that through threats to their Erasmus funding or just international EU students feeling unsafe about coming to the UK to study, then that's our problem. If students feel like any issue which affects them is an issue, then it's our job to represent them. It's that simple. So when a student comes to us and says, we'd like to run a campaign, they can change it, they can give us policy to work on, and it's the job and the privilege of us six on the exec to support that campaign and make sure their voices are heard on a national stage as well as at the union and the university here. So absolutely.
Thank you. Elias?
So yeah, I agree with what everyone just said. I do agree that the union's job is to support students' activism and also to discourage political apathy. That is why on my manifesto, one of the main points is that I'm going to be bringing debates to LUU, regular debates. We're going to bring in MPs, councillors, societies, and in the end students for them to be able to debate their ideas. Also, I want to have an induction for all students, all freshers especially as well, to understand exactly what the union does and how you can get involved, because that is how you basically stop political apathy within our membership, and LUU is basically where your political activism starts. And also, I'm running to make reform to the existing democratic structures that we already have. So I want every society to have a union affairs role. This is a way to get the union to the students by being able to have direct contact with the union affairs officer. So yeah.
Thank you. Charlie?
I mean, absolutely. I think first and foremost, what we need to realise is that an awful lot of what's going on right now politically is no longer happening in the abstract. There are people at this university and in the community surrounding us that are facing serious threat. There are people that are suffering from such stress. There are people that are having the funding cut. And now more than ever, students need to take a stand. Throughout history, students have been at the forefront of political change, and it's time for us to do that again. And the only way we're going to do that is with a strong leader, with a strong knowledge of politics and an ability to bring people together. And that is what you get with me.
Thank you. And Sam?
Yeah, I completely agree. Students will obviously be frustrated with some things that go on because everyone has different opinions. And as union exec, you need to nurture everyone's opinions because you're gonna have half people believing one thing and half of people believing the other thing. But you need to provide a platform for yourself to express your concern with whatever is happening locally, nationally, or internationally in the world.
Okay, so talking about inclusivity now, how do you intend on ensuring that LU is going to focus on inclusivity during your term and make sure that the experiences of students from liberation groups are met if you were to be elected? So Charlie, I'm going to come to you first.
I think a great way to encourage inclusivity is through live music. And live music can bring communities together and it can be a great rallying point. It gives people a place to get together, relax. And that is something that I'm going to provide. But more than putting on my own gigs, I'm going to give you the ability to put on gigs, which means that particularly marginalised groups can come together and they can say, look, we want to do something. We want to give our people something to get together around. And that is and I'm going to give them the tools that they need to do that.
Thank you. Sam?
Yeah, I'd really like more inclusive societies. I think if we pump more money into societies and allowed them to have bigger teams, people will be able to join, more people will be able to join, sorry. I also think with the detachment of international students, if we could link the society, the international societies, for example, the Chinese society, with other sports societies to help them integrate, I think that would be a really good way to get everyone involved in the same things.
Thank you. Elias?
So yeah, so I'm a BME student, obviously, And I'm also an immigrant. I was born in Somalia and I was raised there for basically half my life when I got to this country. So I understand the importance of liberation, which is why on my manifesto, one of the points is that I am going to introduce a quiet room to the union. For example, I'm a Muslim student and I know that there are a lack of prayer spaces within the union and within the university in general. There's no reason why Muslim students are expected to walk, from one side of campus to the other just so they could find prayer space. So that's definitely something that I would look into. Also, I'm a member of the NUS Black Students Campaign and I'm on their committee, which is, liberation is something that we heavily focus on, and I would be working to understand how the, for example, LUU's money allocation impacts protected characteristic groups, for example, BME groups, religious groups, and so on. And also, in my last point on the manifesto, it says to make LUU lit. Even though this just sounds like something fun, it's actually something serious, which is that we need to have more spaces for students of BME backgrounds to be able to get involved within LUU. Within LUU, for example, having a barbershop, having a hair salon, having an alternative night, for example, a grime night, and obviously we can have all this running alongside Fruity, alongside all the other things we have going on, just to make sure everyone is involved within LUU.
Thank you. Jack.
The union's role is to serve its students, and obviously you need to be able to do that through your structures and also through the building itself. As far as our structural support goes, I'm not the sort of person who's from a liberation group. I understand that my privilege is that. So on my manifesto, I want to give more structural support to marginalised groups in our democratic structures, which means lending staff support, a budget to liberation coordinators who very recently became reps at our student forum. So it means that the voices get heard, which otherwise had been overshadowed before. It also means that in the building, we need to make sure that it's as accessible and inclusive for everybody. You may have noticed we're in the middle of a pretty big upgrade to the building. It's a really exciting opportunity to make sure that we have spaces which everybody feels they can relax in, socialize in, have events, and be able to get into as well. So it's more than just a building. It's what we do as well, and our services to them.
Thank you. And Alicia.
Sorry. Yeah, one of my main points on my manifesto is to make the union a lot more inclusive and transparent in its affairs, because I believe that students should be more involved in the process, not just the end. So I think that great ways that we can do this, and simple ways that we can do this, is by taking advantage of the app that we already have, the Uni Leeds app, because the majority of students use this app every day. Why not put more on it to get students more engaged in activities that are going on in the union and for them to be more informed about what's going on in the union as well? I also believe one of my main points as well is to make Fruity great again, and that does not mean that Fruity is not great. Trust me, it is. However, I believe that we can get a lot more diversity in Fruity. We can get a more diverse crowd out there as well. So I believe that if there are either more specified nights for certain groups and social groups, or another room, or that, just to get more people out there. And also to make the union a lot more, to increase communication and make it a lot more accessible, especially during the upgrade. Because I spoke to the students of the Disability Action Society, and they expressed a lot of their concerns about accessibility during the upgrade. And also in the union satisfaction survey, 35.36% of our students said that they felt that they were inconvenienced during the upgrade. So I'd definitely like to change this as it's still going on. So yeah.
Thank you, Alicia. So my next question is about student cost. This is obviously a big issue for students and is a big issue for this leadership race. I'd like to know what candidates think about the best ways for the union to help reduce costs that students are facing. For example, on some manifestos we've heard about proposed having cheaper drinks in the union, but I'd like to know what services will be cut to subsidise such ideas. So Ilyas, I'm coming to you first.
So with the issue of prices on LUU, this is something that's also included in my manifesto, and it all comes down to the block grant, which is the money that the university gives to LUU. Right now, we're the second best university union in the country. We're rated excellent by NUS's Quality SU's rating, and within that, we basically deserve more money, but we don't have more money. There are student unions around the country who are getting way more money than us, but they don't do as well as us. So the fact that LUU is so expensive, like for example essentials and so on, is down to the fact that the university is not giving us more money. So I would be going to the university, I would demand more money from the fact that we literally just do deserve more money because we're performing very well. And from there on, that would basically mean more money for societies. You wouldn't have to basically have to sell your soul to basically go to some of the conferences that some societies have on. And you would also be able to get cheaper stuff within the shops in LUU. Would also be able to hire more staff and have more well-paying part-time jobs.
Thanks, Ilya. So I'm going to come back round to Jack.
Yeah, I mean, as far as our cheap drinks go, that was in the Griffin recently. I think that we've got relatively good value, quality for drinks and their prices compared to other student unions. Although I do love a cheap pint, but you know, you have to have responsible drinking as well. As far as the union goes, I've said in my manifesto I'd like to have a value for money campaign to hold ourselves to account. We've actually got one of the cheapest meal deals, for example, in the area, but students still think that essentials is expensive in their feedback. So there's something around the perception of value which we need to address and make sure that we're delivering quality as well as low cost. I also think that as far as our funding goes, this is no surprise. You know, the union spends £4 million on printing, stationery and office, where they give us £2.5 million a year. That's absolutely crazy. We're now paying more and more for tuition fees. As that happens, students have more and more of a say in where their money goes. Out of the £290 million that we give them in tuition fees last year and education contracts, we were given 1% of that figure. You know, is LUU 1% of your experience at Leeds? I really don't think so. So I've had that in my manifesto. I've been lobbying all year. Next year, the block grant is up for renegotiation. I think I can be the officer to lead those negotiations and get us better funding to fund our services and not have to cut back anything.
Thank you. Alicia?
Honestly, I would definitely love to reduce the cost of living for all students, but I do think that this is a difficult task. So I believe that I totally agree with what Jack has said and what has been done so far and such. And I believe that we could probably better allocate the money that we already have right now on more things for the students. Maybe even, I don't know, talking to different companies to get cheaper things for, sorry, let me reword that. Talking to companies to get the same quality things for less. And also, as Jack mentioned, so we all pay ridiculous amounts of tuition fees, and as an international student, I could tell you I probably pay double the amount as of a home student. So I'm definitely always inquiring, what am I actually paying more for? So I definitely, like for a lot more money to be put towards the students and their needs. Yeah.
Thank you. Sam?
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement that £9,000 a year is very, very expensive, especially for people our age. And being a student for 3 years, I've known how money struggles can affect a person. And what I put in my manifesto is I want to make essentials a lot cheaper. So I want students to know they're getting the best deal. I know for a fact they're not, because I've been to Tesco before. The meal deal is £2.50 there, and in essentials it's £3.40 something. So I want to sort that out and take a look there, make sure students know exactly what they're getting, the best deal for them. I will push this forward with the trustees when we meet, because it's very important with the amount of money that we're spending on our education that we have the best deals for living.
Thank you. Charlie?
So a few things. The Griffin article actually highlighted that Leeds drink prices are amongst the most expensive. Second, the meal deal in essentials is £2.39, which is a remarkably good price and cheaper than Tesco. However, as to how we're going to get more money, right, is anyone aware of how much the VC earns? Because the VC earns an abhorrent amount of money that, frankly, I do not believe is justified. Which is why I'm going to support the lecturers and the various staff here in their ongoing dispute with the university, and we are going to put pressure on them to increase the amount of money that we get, because this union is absolutely fantastic, and it is wrong that management are sucking so much money out of it, which we deserve. And on that note, increasing engagement, which is a core tenet of my platform, is a vital way that we can make a stronger case to the university that we need more money. Now, at the end of the day, we can present a united front and we can petition the university for more money, and we can get it because we deserve it.
Thank you. So we're now going to hand over to Kyle, see what questions have been coming in on Twitter. You can keep getting in touch with using the hashtag LEADLUU or posting in the Question Time Facebook event. Kyle, what have we got?
Thanks, Georgia. We've got one through on the Twitter that says, has the union communicated well during the union upgrade?
Sam, would you like the chance to go first for this question?
I don't think they've done enough, to be honest with you. Personally, I without doing any research, I didn't actually know what the upgrades were doing. And the people I've spoken to don't know what's being made and what facilities are going to be put in there. I feel like it should have been advertised better, and there should be easy access or advertise more what's going to get put in those places. I think it could have been done better.
Okay, thank you. Charlie?
I don't think the issue is with the union communicating, because I believe that there are clear channels of communication. I believe the issue is that the union haven't listened. I mean, I was one of many students last year who was vehemently against the redesign that we were offered of Old Bar, and the union registered that the Old Bar redesign was something that a lot of people weren't happy with. And yet, it went on. I just think it's strange, frankly, that the union can illustrate that they're listening to us, and yet will not. They can illustrate that they know what we're saying, but they will not act on what we're saying. And it's wrong.
Ilyas?
I think the union can communicate all it can, but it all comes down to the point of, are students really listening, are students really engaged with LUU for them to really be listening to what the union is saying? And the answer is that the answer to that is unfortunately no. People don't really know too much about LUU. People don't know that this union upgrade was even going on until it's literally there. I didn't know about it, and I found out that it's actually the exec who were able to push for this union upgrade, which is very important because it brings us back to the important point that the exec can do so much for students, the union can do so much for students, but students need to get involved, which is why I'm introducing debates, which is why I'm introducing induction, which is why I'm trying to make it lit, to basically make sure that students are coming here, because LUU can do all the amazing things that it does, but if it's not really getting to students, what's really the point?
Thank you. Jack?
Truth be told, I don't think we were good enough at first. I think we were very excited that this upgrade was happening. It was a long time coming. We were really excited about the money, about the spaces that we could open. Then, over summer, things began to fall behind schedule a little bit, and then spaces were open that weren't completely ready. We weren't very good at first at telling that to students. I think since we've had a hell of a learning curve, we've been setting up groups with students who use the theatre here in the Riley. The Riley looks kind of finished, it looks pretty nice, but it's not quite there yet. We're working with a theatre working group. We've got staff who meet with student representatives from societies, and they're taking their feedback to try and work with the university, who, by the way, own the project. So when stuff like this happens, we can only really feed into their working groups. It's quite frustrating at times. Seriously, ourselves and the staff do try very hard. We also took feedback from societies. So I was in a union upgrade student engagement group today where we were looking at feedback from dance societies about some of the spaces they've been using, and we do try our best to adapt spaces as we find out how they're being used now as they open up again. I think that just goes to prove how students can change things once we reach out to them, which is a key point of what I'd like to do as more spaces come open in Union Square, in the old Hidden Cafe, into next year, because we don't want to make the same mistakes twice. I actually think Old Bar is a really good example of students creating change. I was a student at the time. I was kind of terrified because I loved Old Bar, and it was a serious comfort blanket to me through 3 years, and I didn't want it to change. And yet, students fell into it, and we basically, surprisingly, managed to make an old place look exactly the same, with a slightly larger kitchen and slightly better audio. So you know what, it wasn't too bad in the end. So if we can replicate stuff like that and move it into the rest of the upgrade, then that's something that I want to prioritize.
Thank you. And Alicia?
Well, yeah, but I definitely agree with what everyone has said, especially Jack, because there's actually a union upgrade website that tells you the plans for the upgrade, what has been done already, and what has been completed, what is being done currently, and it's the expected finishing date. And I believe that that is very useful. However, a lot of students don't know about it. They don't know that it exists, and they're not aware of how they can access it as well. So I believe that communication, they have done a good job. They probably could do a better, we could probably do a better job at it, and probably by using better platforms such as social media a lot more to say what is being done right now. Sudden changes as well should be notified. The students should be notified of these sudden changes as well. And yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm now going to invite each of the candidates to give a brief closing statement. Jack, I'm coming to you first for this.
Well, thanks for listening to me kind of ramble on about block grants and student engagement and stuff like that. I've absolutely loved the first 6 months of my job here. It's been an absolute dream job, and I would absolutely appreciate the chance to carry on the projects I've started and to deliver on what I think is going to be a really important year for LUU next year, be it the block grant, be it the union upgrade, be it gathering your feedback to direct the next strategic plan for the next 4 years, which will basically be your views directing all of the work this university union does. So if you'd like somebody who's got that kind of experience to move forward into next year, then please don't hesitate. Vote me number 1 for Union Affairs. Or you know what, yeah, second choice is good too. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Alicia.
Yeah, I just want to say that I hope that you can access my manifesto on the website. You can also check Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Root for Roger. And I hope that I give you a reason to vote for me by the policies that I have put forward, as well as this little question time here. So yeah, I hope, but I also know that whoever you choose would be an excellent candidate. But yeah, I hope you could vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam.
Yes, I want everyone to feel like they can express themselves in the union and have a platform to speak on, to have their voices heard, no matter what their voice is. Yeah, I feel like I really want an inclusive, involving everybody in the union and everyone getting closer together. If you want that too, then please vote Sam.
Thank you. Charlie.
Well, I mean, I agree with the others that it is great to see so many people here. Thank you all for coming out. What you all need to go and do now is to like Weldrick for Union Affairs on Facebook, because I'm slowly releasing policy throughout the campaign. And I just want to let you know that for me, this is more than just a couple of paragraphs on a CV. This is a real opportunity for student-led change. And in this position, I can ensure that we make a Brexit that works for students. I can ensure that we fight the teaching excellence framework. And above all else, I can ensure that the Leeds University Union works for everybody.
Thank you. And Ilyas. Thank you. And Ilyas.
So I've just basically before brought out these facts that I'm pretty sure most people don't know about, which is that we're the second best university union in the country. We're rated excellent by NUS. And it comes down to the point that why don't people know about this? Why don't students know about this? Why aren't students engaged with LUU? And that's why I'm running. I'm running to bring a fresh approach to how we do things. I'm running to make LUU relevant. I'm running to make sure that things really do get popping. So please make sure that you vote for yes for Ilyas, Union Affairs, Fresh Prince of Union Affairs, and we can make sure we have an LUU that is popping locally, nationally, and regionally.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll be back in a few minutes for our final round of question time, which is interrogating the candidates for the welfare officer position. So do get your questions in on Twitter, #LeadLUU, and on the Facebook event. And please give such a warm round of applause for all the candidates running to be Union Affairs.
smile to someone's heart. Changing time, no need to scream. Now you've made your choice, no need to live somebody's dream.
Hello everyone, welcome back. This is the final round of candidates in today's question time for the leadership race. My name's Georgia, I'm the forum facilitator here at LUU and also a fourth year English literature student, and I've just been here to stimulate debate and ask the questions. So we are taking questions on Twitter, #LeadLU, and also in the Facebook event for question time, or just on a piece of paper if you grab someone with a purple t-shirt. So if you want to be involved with the debate, then absolutely do, and we'll be getting questions from Kyle. So this group of candidates, the final group today, running to be the welfare officer, they're responsible for helping students with any problems to make sure they're able to make the most of their time at university. They listen to students' concerns to help identify and resolve issues, and they also campaign to help students and staff build a happy and inclusive community. So if you would give a warm welcome to your candidates for the welfare officer position this afternoon. A warm round of applause. Okay, so first up I'm going to invite each candidate to give a 30-second opening statement, and I'm going to start with Masumi.
Hi, I'm Masumi. I am the co-founder and co-president of Leeds Alliance Autism Society, and I actively manage the welfare of my members, and I'm really looking forward to extending that to the wider student community here at Leeds. Welfare can affect anybody at any time, and that's why my key areas are awareness, accessibility, and social justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Claire.
Hi,
Amelia next.
Amelia. Yeah, my name's Amelia, and I'd just first like to say that my main aim is to make everybody feel like they're important in university and that you matter. You're not just a grade and you're not just a statistic. Your feelings and things that happen to you are extremely important to me, and that's something that I'm really, really passionate about. I've volunteered in the university for 4 years. I've been here for 4 years. I've worked with various volunteering societies, Nightline, LUMIC, Action. So I think I'd be really good in the role, and I really care. So, yeah.
Thanks, Amelia. Okay, next up we have Harry.
Hi guys, I'm Harry. I'm also standing to be your welfare officer. My key main aims are to get better pastoral support from the university, to look after people's sexual health better, and to get better mental well-being across campus. To do this, I want to make sure that we're reforming the mitigating circumstances, getting better training for personal tutors, getting free sexual health testing, and giving better support to victims of crime, and dedicated funding for student-led initiatives. I currently work on the help desk and for the security team here in the union, so I've got a lot of experience at dealing with welfare issues that concern students. But I've also worked for the charities Yorkshire Mesmac and Adaction, so I've also got quite a lot of experience at getting things done.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Okay, Yasmin.
Hi guys, I'm Yasmin and I'm running for welfare officer as well. And my main aim is to keep doing the great work that Jess has currently been doing in terms of mental health and sexual health. But I also want to expand what people think of when they think of welfare, because there's a lot of areas in sort of education, activities, community that affect welfare, but people sort of don't think it's welfare's business, which I don't really like. Welfare should be the top concern anytime any change in the university or the union is made. So the first thing I want is stronger support, better support for mental health issues, when people, go out on a night out. Oh, sorry. I want our education to consider our welfare and how it affects us in terms of curriculum and pastoral support. And I want us to be truly inclusive because there's a lot of groups of students who feel excluded. So yeah.
Thank you, Yasmin. And Chloe.
Hi, I'm Chloe. The areas I want to focus on are student safety, especially when it comes to domestic abuse and hate crimes. I want to create a consistent and inclusive mental health support, as I think that's really important for all students. And as well, I want to help students when they're stressing about money, because I really think that has a massive impact on general welfare, such as eating healthy and mental health as well.
Thank you very much, Chloe. So our first question this afternoon. Anecdotally, Leeds has a reputation for being a party city, with drugs and alcohol playing a big part in the lives of some students here at Leeds. I'd like to ask candidates how they would work to raise awareness of the harms associated with alcohol and drug abuse. Chloe, can I come to you first for this?
So I think we just need to be completely honest with students when it comes to drinking alcohol and taking drugs, because it does happen. And for example, just saying like, no, don't do this, or this is dangerous to you might not necessarily work. We need like in detail advice and like support centres for people to come to if they do need help with issues such as drugs and things like that.
Thank you. Yasmin.
So like with many of the sort of neglected issues when it comes to university and union, first of all, we just need to open up discussion and decrease stigma, because when we discuss and we start talking amongst each other, we realise we have differences and things in common when it comes to things like drug and alcohol abuse and our experiences, and it makes people feel like, oh, it's okay to talk about this, it's okay to discuss this, because simply doing very generic educational programs from bringing people outside the university, I don't think that really resonates with people. Like with other areas like mental health and equality and diversity, I think staff needs to be better informed of the issue, and obviously not to judge anyone who's had the experiences or uses drugs or uses alcohol. That's personal tutors, that's sub-wardens, wardens, the security team, all of that. And I think finally relating it to other issues and just to well-being and welfare in general. So when we have well-being or welfare sort of events, including it in there, I think would be good.
Thank you, Yasmin. Harry.
So I completely agree with what the others have said about it doesn't work just telling people not to drink, and that's a pretty stupid idea because a lot of student events revolve around alcohol. That is something I want to address, and particularly with certain minority groups, so LGBT students and BME students. I think there is a preponderance to have most of their social events depending on alcohol. I think LGBT Society does a lot of really good work with their coffee hours and making non-alcoholic spaces available. But I'd like to continue that. I have worked quite a lot in this area, so I used to work for EdAction, so I do kind of know how we can talk to people in an honest and open way. We need better education on the risks of alcohol and drug use, but we don't need to do it in a patronising way. Fundamentally, people will only access support when they feel they need it, so the best thing we can do as an organisation is just to provide better education and have that support ready for people when they need it. I'd really like to work with some partner charities, such as Forward Leeds here in Leeds, to give that support when it becomes necessary, because I acknowledge I'm not an expert in this area and I need to support, the support from other services out there.
Thank you. Amelia.
There's not really much I can add to what everyone else has said, but yeah, I think it would be silly to say that we all don't drink and we don't take drugs. So I think drugs is one of the things that we don't talk about as openly as alcohol, especially here in Leeds. Like, we all know that there's nights in Canal Mills and stuff like that people go to, and there's just not an open conversation about that. So we do need to talk openly, and it needs to be judgment-free. There's no reason why we can't talk about the things that we do on a night out, and there should be some better support systems here in LUU. If your friend has had a bad trip or something like that, I don't know. There needs to be a better support system. But yeah.
Thanks, Amelia. Massimo.
So one of the main themes of my campaign is that I want to ensure that students can get the support they need before a problem arises. And I've been in talks with student advice to work with them to create a space in the Students' Union called a welfare hub, where you can get the advice you need, not just for drugs and alcohol, but it could be drugs and alcohol, where you could get advice, meet up with welfare societies, or just get a hot drink. You can stay in for as short time as you like, or you could stay there for an extended period of time. I'd like to have themed days at least once a week, and I hope that will provide students with the drug and alcohol support that they need. Thank you.
Thanks, Massimo. So Over the last 50, 60 years, various liberation groups have been fighting for and securing a number of important rights, such as women's rights to choose, same-sex marriage, legal protection from abuse for people with protected characteristics, and recent political movements have, for the first time, produced leaders who do not support these rights. I'd like to know what these candidates would do as a welfare officer to support student well-being by ensuring that these rights remain protected and that all students can feel safe and welcome on our campus. So Harry, I'm going to start with you here.
So I think the first and most important thing we can do is condemn these changes when they come. So I think these political leaders that do threaten our fundamental rights need to be told in no uncertain terms that that's not okay. And I think as part of the mouthpiece for LUU, the exec has a fundamental role in doing this. I think Jess has done that really well, and that's something that I'd really like to continue. But in addition to that, we just need to reiterate the importance of having LUU as a safe space and give practical advice where it's necessary, but mainly just be an emotional support hub for those students at risk. So obviously the recent one in the news is the travel ban to the United States. I know that the union has been doing a lot of work with the affected students, as has the university and the international office. They've been working really, really hard with the students that are affected, so who have dual American and one of these countries' citizenships, and other students in the similar positions. But I think the fundamental thing we need to do is condemn any attempt to take back the rights that have been very hard won. And I think we need to make the union as open a space as possible. And that comes from discussion, open, frank, and honest discussion about why people think that we shouldn't have these rights and condemning them when they say that.
Thanks, Harry. Amelia. Yeah, absolutely. So the question is about supporting the rights like women's right to choose and same-sex marriage that have recently come into question under new political leaders on an international stage. So how would you, if you were a welfare officer, support student well-being by ensuring that these rights are protected so that all students can feel safe and welcome on campus?
Like we've had before, I think it's just really important to support students no matter what's going on in the world. And I think, like Jess has had open and frank conversations with students and, you know, publicly said how she feels, which I think a lot of people share the same opinion. The LUU needs to be a safe space, like has been said. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Amelia. Natalie.
Well, firstly, I think it's important to liaise with the Equality and Diversity Officer and the Liberation Coordinators, but also acknowledge that Liberation Coordinators do not cover all of the students on campus who may have protective characteristics. I would also like to offer accessible safe spaces in the union where these students can go to and kind of get away from campus and have a safe space to go to. And I think there is power when there are a lot of people campaigning and talking. So if you would like to start a positive campaign to promote these students, then I'd like to give you increased platforms for student-led social justice campaigns, including social media, outdoor spaces, and peer support. And I hope that will give you a more enjoyable time at university.
Thanks, Natalie. Chloe.
So I agree with the other candidates. I think that it's really important that the union speaks out and campaigns on these big political issues. Like I say in my manifesto, for example, I think it's really important to campaign against the continuing cuts to the NHS and many other issues that are involved in government cuts and things like that. I think safe spaces are really important too, and the union just needs to keep being a safe space and a base of support for students when it's quite hard to find it elsewhere. But it's really important that we make sure that these safe spaces are intersectional and diverse. So, for example, there needs to be safe spaces for BME students who might face some of these issues slightly differently to, say, white students.
Thank you. And Yasmin.
So I think there are a number of ways we can sort of support students through this and through all these issues that are coming up and leaders who don't respect liberal values. I think the main way the university can do this is to show that they don't agree with these policies, and the union is to progress as an organisation. If you don't agree with things that Donald Trump is saying, then one of the ways you can fight back, for example, is to give us a more diverse education. A lot of our modules are not very diverse. They don't reflect the wide cultures in the world. You can have more gender-neutral toilets. You know, shows an organisation that you get it, quite frankly, because by promoting those liberal values, diverse education, gender liberal toilets, accessibility, we're showing that we are in the 21st century and we're promoting those liberal values, not just through what we say, but through what we do. I think the next thing we can do is definitely work with societies. Societies are just, that a lot of them are great. LGBT, Black FemSoc, get students involved. You know, we should get everyone involved in that activism. It shouldn't just be a top-down process. Invite them to these meetings, help them with campaigns, give them funding for campaigns. And another thing that we should do is also, I think we should have an international focus. We should follow these developments closely and show people that we know what's happening, not just in Western countries like America and the UK, but also other countries. Because yes, we know that Donald Trump is now the President of the United States and what that means for people pretty much all over the world, and that it's not going to do a lot of good. But over the past number of years, there's been atrocities committed in non-Western countries, and the union hasn't really said anything, and it makes it seem like if it's not happening in an English-speaking country or in a European country, that we're not really noticing it. For example, you'll read your newspaper today and it will say that Russia is trying to basically decriminalise domestic abuse. Like, we should say that we note that, and we know that that's wrong and that's against liberal values. And of course, because Russia is getting kind of cozy with Donald Trump, it would be good to say that. And I think finally, we should underline that engaging with these issues and fighting against injustice and people's rights is a part of our education. It's not an extra thing to your degree, because if you fight against these injustices and you engage with them, then you're getting better educated, and it will make us all better members of society. And I think that's all we want to be, because when we leave here, we all want to make an impact, we all want to make a difference, and so it benefits all of us.
Thank you, Yasmin. So we'll take one more question up here, but don't forget you can be getting in touch on Twitter and Facebook. Across your manifestos, improving pastoral support comes out as a theme for lots of you as candidates. Do you think this should be the role of academics? Should every student have a separate pastoral tutor? And if it's academics, do you think they will ever be qualified to provide adequate wellbeing support for students? I'm going to come to Amelia first for this question.
I don't think we necessarily need a pastoral tutor specifically, because I think the role of a tutor is encompassed, like pastoral care should be encompassed within it, because they're the person that we're assigned to speak to from the very beginning of our university journey. And often, you know, they're the first person you're assigned to, and you stick with them for the 3 or 4 years that you're here. And so, therefore, they should be empathetic and understanding, and they should be able to give you guidance. So, you know, I think a pastoral care, like extra person, is a nice idea, but why can't we have tutors and people who already are here that can help us? One of my main manifesto points is that I think that tutors need mental health support training, not for us to use them as counsellors, because we have counsellors here and we have access to counsellors, but to help them point us in the right direction, signpost things that, you know, are helpful to us. They need to be more empathetic, and they need to be more understanding that just because they can't see our disability doesn't mean that it's not there. And that's something that I feel really, really passionate about.
Thank you, Amelia. Natalie?
I think this is something that could probably be achieved within the student community already. So I think, for example, we already have students who nominate themselves to look after the other students on the same course, like student reps. And also I think this links into increasing awareness of what welfare support is already available on campus to everybody. I think we have a huge access issue here, because if you don't know what's available to you, you cannot access it. So one of the things I would like to do to increase access is to introduce welfare coordinators to every club and society committee, and it would be the role of that person to manage the welfare of every member of that society and that group, and I hope that that would improve the society's members' access to welfare support and generally ensure that more people are accessing the support that they need.
Thank you. Chloe?
I agree that the biggest issue when it comes to this is kind of access and signposting, and yeah, it's not achievable to have every member of staff and bring in new staff members that are, you know, very extremely trained in mental health, but I mean, when you get a new job and you are staff, you do get some form of training. So I think that that should at least include mental health awareness, especially when it comes to kind of like key staff and possibly as many personal tutors as possible. And that they should just have, staff in the university should have easy access to info on what is available for support. So I know myself that when I've gone to certain members of staff, they just have no idea and they're clueless and kind of sent me to the wrong places, where, for example, there are other members of staff who do know and say, no, here it is, place A, place B, place C, it's up to you where you go, but I really hope that you do go to one of them. And so I think there just kind of needs to be a more consistent understanding amongst staff about what they can do to help students.
Thank you. Yasmin.
So yeah, I don't think it would be possible currently to have a pastoral tutor for every student. So I think it is the role of personal tutors of academics to be good personal tutors. And yeah, I think a lot of improvements need to be made. I mean, just on undergraduates alone, there needs to be mental health training and equality and diversity training for all personal tutors, because, you know, I think the two relate. I think mental health issues and, you know, your background do relate in some way, so all personal tutors need to have both. And I think they shouldn't just have training. I think what they need to gain from that training needs to be reflected in the in their contract, basically, in the policy, because currently the policy sort of just bangs on about Leeds for life and sort of preparing you for your career. There might be one bullet point on the pastoral side of being a personal tutor, and I think one of the reasons they just don't get it because their contract doesn't really tell them, you know, this is what being the pastoral side means, this is what you need to understand, this is what you need to engage with. And so if it's in the contract, then they know, okay, I need to engage with issues, I need to respect students regardless of racial background, sexual orientation, you know, I can't judge them, I have to respect them, I have to be there for them. And I think another way that we need to do this is also improving communication. Some tutors are not very available, they seem to think it's tacked onto the side of lecturing, it's not. It's important, if not just as important as the teaching that they provide. And there needs to be better communication. I think, for example, when students say they're absent, I think it's worrying that you can say that you're consistently absent a lot, and then your personal tutor isn't told that or isn't informed that unless you inform them yourself. So I'm wondering what the point of filling out the form is if no one's checking on that. And I think finally, pastoral support needs to be improved for a wide range of students, study abroad, placement year. I think temporary leave students also deserve pastoral support, because it seems if you're away from the university but you're still a student, then that means, they seem to think that means you're not entitled to any pastoral support whatsoever, and I don't really understand that.
Thank you, Yasmin. And Harry.
So I agree with the others when about not divorcing pastoral support and academic support from our personal tutor. I think one personal tutor for both is a key part of the personal tutor system, partly because when personal issues strike, they often do affect our academic work, and we need someone who understands that balance. I do also completely agree with the others about the fact that we need better training, but we also need a culture shift with our personal tutors about what their role is. For instance, if you tell your tutor that you're struggling, that shouldn't just be a once-a-term meeting. I want the tutors to be much more proactive in checking up on our students, and I want them to be taking actions to support our students. Again, I agree that the current signposting system is completely inadequate. What I want is automatic signposting for students who are struggling. So if you do submit a mitigating circumstances form, or you tell your personal tutor you're struggling, I want there to be a whole range of information that you can be given at that point, tailored to the circumstances you're struggling. So if it's more academic support you need, if you want to see a counsellor, if perhaps you want to go to Leeds Student Medical Practice, or if the advice centre here can help you. I want people to be better aware of those options, and I want to do that through an automatic signposting program so no student gets missed. I do disagree about the fact that we should be passing this burden on to students. Students shouldn't be solely responsible for the welfare of other students, and I worry if we move the burden more towards students. What about students who are not in societies? How are they going to get support and things like that? I think what we fundamentally need is better trained staff. I completely agree with Yasmin when she says we need to write it into the personal tutor's contract. I think that's a really great idea, and we need a complete culture shift on what personal tutors are there for. Yes, they're academics, but for us, our one-on-one sessions should be about our pastoral development and how we're doing in and of ourselves. University can be a really hard time for some people, and I don't think we're getting enough support currently. I also want better training, not just for personal tutors, but for the office staff as well. I had some personal issues last year about my family not being very well, but that meant I had to go and tell a crowded office full of people in the Faculty of Biological Sciences, where the office is just completely open plan. I had to say this to 3 different receptionists, and I don't think that's okay. I think we need a much better level of training for all the academic staff involved with the mitigating circumstances procedure.
Thank you, Harry. So I'd now like to hand over to Kyle to get some of the questions that have been coming in from students on Twitter and Facebook. So Kyle, what have you got?
Thanks, Georgia, and thank you to everyone who has been watching on the stream all day and taking part in the hashtag Lead LUU debate. We have a question here for the welfare candidates from Twitter. How would candidates help improve mental health that isn't related to anxiety or depression, e.g. bipolar, OCD and addiction?
Yasmin, I'd like to come to you first for this question.
So I'm not going to pretend that I know in detail how to help each kind of mental health issue, but I do think that there needs to, again, be more training with staff, and that they need to be aware of all the different mental health issues that one can face. I think with regards to addiction, well, actually with all the OCD, bipolar and addiction mentioned, there needs to be a destigmatization campaign. So something I think that would be great next year would be, again, we've had some great mental health events this year, with like focusing on black mental health and LGBT mental health. But yes, perhaps, I mean, actually, frankly, we should next year have more focus on mental health issues that are less spoken about and people don't really know about, to sort of destigmatize the issue, so people can engage with them more. And yeah, I think more training, a campaign that would focus specifically on mental health issues that people don't know as much about, to educate myself, to educate other people in the union as well. I think those are the main ways that I would focus on that.
Thank you. Harry?
So as I mentioned earlier, I think it's really important to work with partners on things like this. I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert on these issues. I'm certainly not. But I do think we need access to those experts, and I really want to work very closely with them to make sure we are giving the support we need to these students. Just brushing slightly more in depth on addiction, I think we need specially trained staff across all of these fields, but who understand and can empathise with these students to provide individually tailored support. I'd like to work with the Disabled Students Office, the Disability Office, to make sure that we are having appropriate support for these students, and make sure that we do have a much better level of training completely across the board. I want to have yearly refreshers for all of our academic staff on both inclusion and equality, and on mental health issues, to make sure that our students are getting the best out of their time here. And currently I do think that we are failing these students, and something we need a complete change in culture.
Thank you. Amelia?
Like Yasmin says, we just need a lot more awareness that these things aren't just about depression and anxiety. A lot of these other things that sort of get swept under the carpet a little bit, and I think that's very wrong. And we need to remove the stigma, like you said as well. And I think that also feeds into the tutor support training that I'd like to implement if I were to be elected. I think a lot of tutors sort of also brush these things under the carpet and don't quite realise exactly what goes into all the, all the problems that people may have. And that's something that I'd like to really work on. And yeah, just removing the stigma and removing, this idea that it's only a handful of things that could affect people's academic work. So yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you. Masami?
I think mental health is something that we need to tackle from many different angles. So one of the things I would do would be liaise with groups already at the university and some beyond the university campus to make sure we're offering the best possible support. As I mentioned earlier, I would like to offer safe spaces, and that would include for students with mental health problems. And I would like to raise awareness so that I think there is a stigma both around accessing welfare, because people think, oh, welfare doesn't affect me, or I'm not the kind of person who deserves welfare support. I really want to break down that barrier. Anybody can be affected by welfare, and I think a campus-wide campaign and the welfare space in the union will ensure that people are aware of the support before a problem happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Chloe?
I agree that we definitely need to fight stigma and raise awareness, and then also create like a proper base of support for mental health issues other than just depression and anxiety, even though they do affect many students, so that stuff needs to continue too. I think when it comes to creating the support groups, we need to work with the students themselves in focus groups and things like that, and speak to experts on how they think that we can best help as a union too. And then, like it says in my manifesto, we need frequent workshops and things and events like that throughout the year, not just in specific wellbeing days and weeks. They need to be a lot more regular than that, and then that would allow space to address a broader range of issues and kind of make the mental health issues that we're dealing with more broad.
Thank you. And Yasmin?
I think
Oh, sorry, you've already
Yeah,
spoken this one. sorry about that. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you, guys. So thank you, everyone, for getting in touch. I'm going to give each of the candidates the chance to give a brief closing statement now. So we'll start again with Masami and just work down the line.
So thank you for listening. I will welcome any feedback on @welfare on Twitter. I actually want to finish slightly cheesily by answering a question sent to my Twitter account that I have not yet answered. I was asked whether I was a fairy, and I want to say yes, I'm a welfare fairy, and if you vote for me, I will make sure all your welfare wishes come true. Thank you.
Thanks, Masami. Amelia?
I'm not sure I can top that. So why should you vote for me? I'm really, really passionate about welfare, and I really care about every single person that goes to this university. My 3 main points are increasing pastoral care, so that's tutor support training, accessible help, and reforming mitigating circumstances. And thirdly, I'd like to put a sexual assault policy in place in the union, because we don't currently have a specific one, which is insane to me. So yeah, I think you should just vote for me, because I've got the experience, and I really hope that I've shown you that I do care about everybody. And yeah, vote for me.
Thank you. Harry?
So one thing that I haven't talked about, which I really want to stress, is that I think we're currently massively underserving huge amounts of the student population. So faculties like medicine and health have a really low engagement with the union, and I'd really like to change that to make sure that welfare is accessible to absolutely everyone. I want to have better mitigating circumstances and appeals, as I've already mentioned, because I think this is the key to our academic performance at the university, and make sure that students who need that support are getting it through better signposting. We also haven't really talked about sexual health, but I think that's a really important part of our time here at Leeds. Yes, we need to focus on mental health, but there are plenty of other issues that are currently underserved, and sexual health is definitely one of those. And better mental well-being. I think we do have some really good support here at the university, but it's not very well utilised, and it's not very well advertised, and I think that is something that definitely needs to change. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yasmin?
So yeah, let's see it. So basically, why should you vote for me? Because I am passionate, but mainly because I think I want to change what welfare means, what people think of when they think of welfare. I think mental health and sexual health are very, very important, and they are very important issues that affect all students. But I think for many people, when it comes to welfare, that's sort of where the buck stops. And when it comes to all these other related issues, people don't seem to think that it affects students' welfare, but it does. Pretty much everything affects students' welfare, where they live, their course, you know, how they feel when they walk into the uni. Do they feel included? Do they feel like there's spaces for them to be themselves? Do they feel accepted? That all affects students' welfare. So whenever a decision is made in the university, if they want to change a syllabus, if they want to make a new space within a union, one of the first questions they should be asking is, how is it going to affect students' welfare? And I don't think they bother to ask that question, and that's not right at all, because if you don't have good welfare, where are your students? How are they supposed to work? How are they supposed to enjoy their time here? And they're paying a lot of money, so they better be having a damn good time. So the main 3 things I want to do is increase support, have strong support systems. The support systems aren't good enough. There needs to be better signposting. As Harry said, there are good services available, but the amount of information is overwhelming, and it's not very well advertised, and that definitely needs to improve. We need to talk about mental health more. We need to have more mental health events. And there are other policies here, but there's a lot of points, I won't go through them. Empathetic education. Your education does affect your welfare. If your course doesn't bother to sort of teach you about your own culture, how's that supposed to make you feel? Exam periods are extremely long, extremely stressful, and that needs to change, and there needs to be more support. And finally, inclusivity. Everyone needs to be included in welfare policies and in everything that happens in the university. There are so many groups that are being disserviced extremely by the union and the university, and that needs to change.
Thank you, Yasmin. And Chloe?
So if I was welfare officer, I'd want to make sure that we have a consistent, inclusive and accessible welfare support in this university. If there's one thing that I really want to highlight to the union and the other candidates in my campaign, that I think that we really need to start addressing domestic abuse, if that's the one thing that people can take away from this. If you like any of my ideas, go check out my manifesto. As cheesy as this sounds, I'm not Theresa May. I don't want to just keep talking about issues, and we actually need to spark a change. If you want to check out my Twitter, it's @ChloeIvy_. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Chloe. So I'd like to say thank you very much to all of the candidates that we've spoken to this afternoon from the Griffin and all of the 6 exec positions. Of course, this is just one stage in each of the candidates' journey towards becoming the next exec. So next week, voting opens on Monday through till Thursday, and the results will be in here next Friday evening from 6 p.m. So make sure you come along to that, find out what the outcome is going to be. Thank you all to the audience for coming and for contributing your questions on Twitter and Facebook. I'd also like to say a massive thank you to Backstage Sock for giving us this great backdrop. We think it's quite fun. And also to LSTV, who have been providing a live stream throughout the whole day and doing lots of great work. LSR, who've been interviewing each candidate downstairs in the back, and also to my colleagues in the Change and Engage office who have worked so tirelessly behind the scenes to put on this afternoon, and all of the support throughout the leadership race. Thank you very much, and please give a warm round of applause to all of the candidates hoping to be the next welfare officer.